Preface of Towards Democracy. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sue Anderson. Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. By way of preface, a note on Towards Democracy, reprinted from the Labor Prophet, May 1894. Having sometimes been asked questions about Towards Democracy, which I found it difficult to answer, I will try and shape a few thoughts about it here. Quite a long time ago, say when I was about 25 and living at Cambridge, I wanted to write some sort of a book which should address itself very personally and closely to anyone who cared to read it, establish, so to speak, an intimate personal relation between myself and the reader. And during succeeding years I made several attempts to realize this idea, of which beginnings, one or two in verse, may be found in a little volume entitled Narcissus and Other Poems, now well out of print, which I published in 1873. None of these attempts satisfied me, however, and after a time I began to think the quest was an unreasonable one. Unreasonable because while it might not be difficult for anyone with a pliant and sympathetic disposition to touch certain chords in any given individual that he might meet, it seemed impossible to hope that a book, which cannot in any way adapt itself to the idiosyncrasies of its reader, could find the key of the personalities into whose hands it should happen to come. For this it would be necessary to suppose, and to find, an absolutely common ground to all individuals, all at any rate who might have reached a certain stage of thought and experience, and to write the book on and from that common ground. But this seemed at that time quite impracticable. Years followed, more or less eventful, with flight from Cambridge, and university lectures carried on in the provincial towns, and so forth, but of much dumbness as regards writing, and inwardly full of tension and suffering. At last, early in 1881, no doubt as the culmination and result of struggles and experiences that had been going on, I became conscious that a mass of material was forming within me, imperatively demanding expression, though what exactly its expression would be, I could not then have told. I became for the time overwhelmingly conscious of the disclosure within of a region transcending in some sense the ordinary bounds of personality, in the light of which region my own idiosyncrasies of character, defects, accomplishments, limitations, or what not, appeared of no importance whatever, an absolute freedom from mortality, accompanied by an indescribable calm and joy. I also immediately saw, or rather felt, that this region of self existing in me existed equally, though not always equally consciously, in others. In regard to it, the mere diversities of temperament which ordinarily distinguish and divide people dropped away and became indifferent, and a field was opened in which all might meet, in which all were truly equal. Thus I found the common ground which I wanted, and the two words, freedom and equality, came for the time being to control all my thought and expression. The necessity for space and time to work this out grew so strong that in April of that year I threw up my lecturing employment. Moreover, another necessity had come upon me which demanded the latter step, the necessity, namely, for an open-air life and manual work. I could not finally argue with this any more than with the other. I had to give in and obey. As it happened, at the time I mention, I was already living in a little cottage on a farm at Bradway near Sheffield with a friend and his family, and doing farm work in the intervals of my lectures. When I threw up the lecturing, I had everything clear before me. I knocked together a sort of wooden sentinel box in the garden, and there, or in the fields and the woods, all that spring and summer, and on through the winter, by day and sometimes by night, in sunlight or in rain, by frost and snow, and all sorts of gray and dull weather, I wrote Towards Democracy, or at any rate the first and longer poem that goes by that name. By the end of 1881 this was finished, though it was worked over and patched a little in the early part of 1882. And I remember feeling then that, defective and halting and incoherent in expression as it was, still, if it succeeded in rendering even a half the splendor which inspired it, it would be good, and I need not trouble to write anything more, which, with due allowance for the said if, I even now feel was a true and friendly intimation. The writing of this and its publication in 1883 got a load off my mind which had been weighing on it for years, a sense of oppression and anxiety which I had constantly suffered from before, and which I believe in its different forms is a common experience in the early part of life. In this first poem were embodied with considerable alterations and adaptations a good number of casual pieces which I had written merely under stress of feeling and without any particular sense of proportion during several preceding years. They now found their interpretation under the steady and clear light of a new mood or state of feeling which previously had only visited me fitfully and with clouded beams. The whole of Towards Democracy, I may say, speaking broadly and including the later pieces, has been written under the domination of this mood. I have tested and measured everything by it. It has been the sun to which all the images and conceptions and thoughts used have been as material objects reflecting its light. And perhaps this connects itself with the fact that it has been so necessary to write in the open air. The more universal feeling which I sought to convey refused itself from me within doors, nor could I at any time or by any means persuade the rhythm or style of expression to render itself up within a room, tending there always to break back into distinct metrical forms, which, however much I admire them in certain authors, and think them myself suitable for certain kinds of work, were not what I wanted, and did not express for me the feeling which I sought to express. This fact of the necessity of the open air is very curious, and I cannot really explain it. I only know that it is so, quite indubitable and insurmountable. I can feel it at once, the difference in merely passing through a doorway, but I cannot explain it. Always especially the sky seemed to contain for me the key, the inspiration. The sight of it, more than anything, gave what I wanted, sometimes like a veritable lightning flash coming down from it onto my paper, I a mere witness, but agitated with strange transports. But if I should be asked, as I have sometimes been asked, what is the exact nature of this mood, of this illuminant splendor of which you speak, I should have to reply that I can give no very concise and clear-cut answer. The whole of Towards Democracy is an endeavor to give it utterance. Any mere single sentence or direct definition would be of no use, rather indeed would tend to obscure by limiting. All I can say is that there seems to be a vision possible to man as from some more universal standpoint, free from the obscurity and localism which especially connect themselves with the passing clouds of desire, fear, and all ordinary thought and emotion. In that sense another and separate faculty, and as vision always means a sense of light, so here is a sense of inward light, unconnected of course with the mortal eye, but bringing to the eye of the mind the impression that it sees, and by means of a medium which washes as it were the interior surfaces of all objects and things and persons. How can I express it? And yet this is most effective, for the sense is a sense that one is those objects and things and persons that one perceives, and even that one is the whole universe, a sense in which sight and touch and hearing are all fused in identity. Nor can the matter be understood without realizing that the whole faculty is deeply and intimately rooted on the far side of the moral and emotional nature, and beyond the thought region of the brain. I do not know any description of its way better than the one attributed to Tennyson, quotes all at once, as it were, out of the intensity of the consciousness of individuality, the individuality itself seemed to dissolve and fade away into boundless being, and this not a confused state, but the clearest of the clearest, the surest of the surest, utterly beyond words, where death was an almost laughable impossibility, the loss of personality, if so it were, seeming no extinction but the only true life. I am ashamed of my feeble description. Have I not said the state is utterly beyond words?" And now, with regard to the I, which occurs so freely in this book. In this and in other such cases the author is naturally liable to a charge of egotism, and I personally do not feel disposed to combat any such charge that may be made. That there are mere egotisms and vanities embodied in these pages I do not for a moment doubt, and that so far as they exist they mar the expression and purpose of the book I also do not doubt. But the existence of these things does not affect the real question: what or who in the main is the I spoken of? To this question I must also frankly own that I can give no answer. I do not know. That the word is not used in the dramatic sense is all I can say. The I is myself, as well as I could find words to express myself, but what that self is, and what its limits may be, and therefore what the self of any other person is, and what its limits may be, I cannot tell. I have sometimes thought that perhaps the best work one could do, if one felt at any time enlargements and extensions of one's ego, was to simply record these, as faithfully as might be, leaving others, the science man and the philosopher, to explain, and feeling confident that what really existed in oneself would be found to exist either consciously or in a latent form in other people. And I will say that I have in these records above all endeavored to be genuine. If I have said I, nature, it was because at the time, at any rate, I felt I, nature. If I have said I am equal with the lowest, it was because I could not express what I felt more directly than by those words. The value of such statements can only appear by time. If they are corroborated by others, then they help to form a body of record which may well be worth investigation, analysis, and explanation. If they are not so corroborated, then they naturally and properly fall away as mere vagaries of self-deception. I have not the least doubt that anything which is really genuine will be corroborated. It seems to me more and more clear that the word I has a practically infinite range of meaning, that the ego covers far more ground than we usually suppose. At some points we are intensely individual, at others intensely sympathetic. Some of our impressions, as the tickling of a hair, are of the most local and momentary character. Others, as the sense of identity, involve long periods of time. Sometimes we are aware almost of a fusion between our own identity and that of another person. What does all this mean? Are we really separate individuals, or is individuality an illusion? Or again, is it only a part of the ego or soul that is individual, and not the whole? Is the ego absolutely one with the body, or is it only a small part of the body? Or again, is the body but part of the self, one of its organs, so to speak, and not the whole man? Or lastly, is it perhaps not possible to express the truth by any direct use of these or other terms of ordinary language? Anyhow, what am I? These are questions which come all down time, demanding solution, which humanity is constantly endeavoring to find an answer to. I do not pretend to answer them. On the contrary, I am sure that not one of the pieces in Towards Democracy has been written with the deliberate view of providing an answer. They have simply been written to express feelings which existed on being expressed. Nevertheless, it is possible that some of them, by giving the experiences and affirmations even of one person, may contribute material towards the answer to these and the like questions, which in some region must assuredly be given. That there is a region of consciousness removed beyond what we usually call mortality, into which we humans can yet pass, I practically do not doubt. But granting that this is a fact, its explanation still remains for investigation. I have said in this brief note on Towards Democracy nothing about the influence of Whitman, for the same reason that I have said nothing about the influence of the sun or the winds. These influences lie too far back and ramify too complexly to be traced. I met with William Rossetti's little selection from Leaves of Grass in 1868 or 1869, and read that and the original editions continuously for 10 years. I never met with any other book, with the exception perhaps of Beethoven's sonatas, which I could read and reread as I could this one. I find it difficult to imagine what my life would have been without it. Leaves of Grass filtered and fibered my blood, but I do not think I ever tried to imitate it or its style. Against the inevitable drift out of the more classic forms of verse into a looser and freer rhythm I fairly fought, contesting the ground, kicking against the pricks, inch by inch, during a period of 7 years, in numerous abortive and mongrel creations, till in 1881 I was finally compelled into the form, if such it can be called, of Towards Democracy. I did not adopt it because it was an approximation to the form of Leaves of Grass. Whatever resemblance there may be between the rhythm, style, thoughts, constructions, etc., of the two books, must, I think, be set down to a deeper similarity of emotional atmosphere and intention in the two authors. even though that similarity may have sprung, and no doubt largely did spring, out of the personal influence of one upon the other. Anyhow, our temperaments, standpoints, antecedents, etc., are so entirely diverse and opposite that, except for a few points, I can hardly imagine that there is much real resemblance to be traced. Whitman's full-blooded, copious, rank, masculine style must always make him one of the world's great originals, a perennial fountain of health and strength, moral as well as physical. He has the amplitude of the earth itself, and can no more be thought away than a mountain can. He often indeed reminds one of a great quarry on a mountainside, the great shafts of sunlight and the shadows, the primitive face of the rock itself, the power and the daring of the men at work upon it, the tumbled blocks and masses, materials for endless buildings, and the beautiful tufts of weed or flower on inaccessible ledges, a picture most artistic in its very incoherence and formlessness. Towards Democracy has a milder radiance, as of the moon compared with the sun, allowing you to glimpse the stars behind. Tender and meditative, less resolute and altogether less massive, it has the quality of the fluid and yielding air rather than of the solid and uncompromising earth. End of preface. Section 1 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Towards Democracy. The sun, the moon, and the stars, the grass, the water that flows round the earth, and the light air of heaven. To you, greeting. I too stand behind these, and send you word across them. 1. Freedom at last, long sought, long prayed for, ages and ages long. The burden to which I continually return, seated here, thick-booted and obvious, yet dead and buried and passed into heaven, unsearchable. How know you indeed but what I have passed into you? And joy, beginning but without ending, the journey of journeys, thought laid quietly aside. These things I, writing, translate for you. I wipe a mirror and place it in your hands. 2. The sun shines as of old, the stars look down from heaven, the moon, crescent, sails in the twilight. On bushy tops in the warm nights, naked with mad dance and song, the earth children address themselves to love. Civilization sinks and swims, but the old facts remain. The sun smiles, knowing well its strength. The little red stars appear once more on the hazel boughs, shining among the catkins. Over wastelands the pewit tumbles and cries, as at the first day. Men with horses go out on the land. They shout and chide and strive, and return again, glad at evening. The old earth breathes deep and rhythmically, night and day, summer and winter, giving and concealing herself. I arise out of the dewy night and shake my wings. Tears and lamentations are no more. Life and death lie stretched below me. I breathe the sweet ether blowing of the breath of God. Deep as the universe is my life, and I know it. Nothing can dislodge the knowledge of it. Nothing can destroy, nothing can harm me. Joy, joy arises. I arise. The sun darts overpowering, piercing rays of joy through me. The night radiates it from me. I take wings through the night and pass through all the wildernesses of the worlds, and the old dark holds of tears and death, and return with laughter, laughter, laughter. Sailing through the starlit spaces on outspread wings, we two, oh laughter, laughter, laughter. 3. Freedom, the deep breath, the word heard centuries and centuries beforehand, the soul singing low and passionate to itself. Joy, joy. Not as in a dream, the earth remains and daily life remains, and the scrubbing of doorsteps, and the house and the care of the house remains. But joy fills it, fills the house full and swells to the sky and reaches the stars, all joy. O freed soul, soul that has completed its relation to the body, O soaring happy beyond words, into other realms passing, salutations to you, freed, redeemed soul. What is certain, and not this? What is solid? The rocks? The mountains? Destiny? The gates are thrown wide open all through the universe. I go to and fro, through the heights and depths I go, and I return. All is well. I conceive the purport of all suffering. The blear-eyed boy, famished in brain, famished in body, shivering there in his rags by the angle of the house, is become divine before me. I hold him long and silently by the hand and pray to him. I conceive a millennium on earth, a millennium not of riches, nor of mechanical facilities, nor of intellectual facilities, nor absolutely of immunity from disease, nor absolutely of immunity from pain, but a time when men and women all over the earth shall ascend and enter into relation with their bodies, shall attain freedom and joy. And the men and women of that time, looking back with something like envy to the life of today, that they too might have borne a part in its travail and throes of birth. All is well, today and a million years hence equally. To you the whole universe is given for a garden of delight, and to the soul that loves, in the great coherent whole, the hardest and most despised lot is even with the best, and there is nothing more certain or more solid than this. 4. Freedom, the deep breath. The old earth breathes deep and rhythmically, night and day, summer and winter. The cuckoo calls across the woodland, and the willow wren warbles among the great chestnut buds. The laborer eases himself under a hedge, and the frog flops into the pond as the cows approach. In the theatre Juliet from her balcony still bends in the moonlight, and Romeo leans up from the bushes below. In the pale dawn, still faint with love, he tears himself away. The great outlines of the fields and hills where you were born and grew up remain apparently unchanged. If I am not level with the lowest, I am nothing, and if I did not know for a certainty that the craziest sot in the village is my equal, and were not proud to have him walk with me as my friend, I would not write another word, for in this is my strength. My thoughts are nothing, but I myself will reach my arms through time, constraining you. These are the days which nourished and fed me so kindly and well. This is the place where I was born, the walls and roofs which are familiar to me, the windows out of which I have looked. This is the overshadowing love and care of parents. These are the faces and deeds indelible of brothers and sisters, closing round me like a wall, the early world in which I lay so long. This is today. The little ship lies ready, the fresh air blowing, the sunlight pouring over the world. These are the gates of all cities and habitations standing open. This is the love of men and women accompanying me wherever I go. These are the sacred memories of that early world. Time may never change. And this is the word which swells the bosom of the hills and feeds the sacred laughter of the streams for man, the purpose which endures for you in those old fields and hills and the sphinx glance of the stars. 5. I, Nature, stand and call to you, though you heed not. Have courage, come forth, O child of mine, that you may see me. As a nymph of the invisible air before her mortal beloved, so I glance before you, I dart and stand in your path, and turn away from your heedless eyes, like one in pain. I am the ground, I listen the sound of your feet, they come nearer, I shut my eyes and feel their tread over my face. I am the trees, I reach downward my long arms and touch you, though you heed not, with enamored fingers. My leaves and zigzag branches write wonderful words against the evening sky. For you, for you. Say, can you not even spell them? Oh, shame, shame, I fling you away from me. You shall not know that I love you. Unworthy, I strike you across the face. Does the blood mount to your cheek now? My glove rings at your feet. I dare you to personal combat. Will you come forth? Will you do the daring deed? Will you strip yourself naked as you came into the world, and come before me, and regard unafraid the flashing of my sword? Will you lose your life to me? O child of mine, see, you are in prison, and I can give you space. You are choked down below there by the dust of your own raising, and I can give you the pure intoxicating air of the mountains to breathe. I can make you a king and show you all the lands of the earth, and from yourself to yourself I can deliver you, and can come your enemy and gaze long and long with yells of laughter into your eyes. 6. The caddis worm leaves the water and takes on wings and flies in the upper air. The walking mud becomes amorous of the winged sunlight and behaves itself in an abandoned manner. The earth during its infancy flies round the sun from which it sprang, and the mud flies round the pond from which it sprang. The earth swims in space, the fish swim in the sea, the bird swims in the air, and the soul of man in the ocean of equality, towards which all the other streams run. Here into this ocean everything debouches, all interest in life begins anew, the plantain in the croft looks different from what it did before. Do you understand? To realize freedom or equality, for it comes to the same thing, for this hitherto for you the universe has rolled, for this your life, possibly yet many lives, for this death many deaths, for this desires, fears, complications, bewilderments, sufferings, hope, regret, all falling away at last duly before the soul, before you, O laughter, arising the full-grown lover, possessor of the password. The path of indifference, action, inaction, good, evil, pleasure, pain, the sky, the sea, cities and wilds, all equally used, never shunned, adopted, put aside as materials only, you continuing, love continuing, the use and freedom of materials dawning at last upon you. O laughter, the soul invading, looking proudly upon its new kingdom, possessing the offerings of all pleasures, forbidden and unforbidden, from all created things, if perchance it will stoop to accept them, the everlasting life. From that day forward objects turn round upon themselves with an exceedingly innocent air, but are visibly not the same. Fate is levelled, and the mountains and pyramids look foolish before the glance of a little child. Love becomes possessed of itself and of the certainty of its own fruition, which it never could have before. Here the essence of all expression and the final surrender of art. For this the divine artists have struggled and still struggle. For this the heroes and lovers of all ages have laid down their lives, and nations like tigers have fought, knowing well that this life was a mere empty blob without freedom. Where this makes itself known in a people, or even in the soul of a single man or woman, there democracy begins to exist. Of that which exists in the soul, political freedom and institutions of equality, and so forth, are but the shadows necessarily thrown, and democracy in states or constitutions but the shadow of that which first expresses itself in the glance of the eye or the appearance of the skin. Without that first the others are of no account, and need not be further mentioned. 7. Inevitable in time for man and all creation is the realization. The husks one behind another keep shelling and peeling off. Rama crosses to Ceylon by the giant stepping stones, and the Ganges floats with the flowers and sacred lamps of pilgrims. Diotima teaches Socrates divine lore. Benedict plunges his midnight lust in nettles and briars, and Bruno stands prevaricating yet obstinate before his judges. The midnight jackals scream round the village, and the feigned cry of the doe is heard as she crosses the track of the hunter pursuing her young. The chaffinch sits close in her perfect nest, and the shining leaping waters of the streams run on and on. The great stream of history runs on. Over the curve of the misty horizon, out of the dim past, do you not see it? Over the plains of China and the burning plains of India, by the tombs of Egypt and through the gardens beneath the white tower of Belus, and under the shadow of the rock of Athens, the great stream descends. Soft, slow, broad-bosomed mother stream, where the ark floats, and Isis in her moon-shaped boat sails on with the corpse of Osiris, and the child god out of the water rises seated on a lotus flower, and Brahma, two-sexed, dwells amid the groves, and the maidens weep for Adonis. Mighty long-delaying vagrant stream, of innumerable growing rustling life, out of some cavern mouth long ago, where the cave dwellers sat gnawing burnt bones, down to today with ever growing tumult, and glints of light upon thee in the distance as of half opened eyes, and the sound of countless voices out of thee, nearer, nearer, past promontory after promontory winding, widening, hastening. Now today turbid, wild and unaccountable, in sudden Niagara plunge toward thy nearer oceanic levels descending. How wonderful art thou! 8. Lo, today the falling waters, the ribbed white perpendicular seas, shaking the ground with their eternal thunder. Lo, above all rising like a sign into the immense height of the sky, the columned vapor and calm exhalation of their agony, the arisen and mighty soul of man. The word runs like fire along the ground. Who shall contain it? The word that is nothing, as fire is nothing, and yet it devours the land in a moment. Lo, today the eagle soul that stretches its neck into the height, looking before and after, the living banner, calling with audible inaudible voice through all times, the spirit whose eyes are heavy with gazing out over the immense world of man. O spirit, 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 stretching thy arms out over the world, calling to thy children, spirit of the brow of love and feet of war and thunder, thou art let loose within me. No delicate fiction art thou to me now. The sound of thy steps appalls me with joy as thou stridest, fills me with joy and power. Go, go, my soul, stream out on the wind with this one. I laugh as the ancient cities shake like leaves in the din and tumult. Go shout on the winds that the world is alive, that the Arisen One controls it. I laugh as the ground rocks under my feet. I laugh as I walk through the forest and the trees reel to and fro and their great dead branches chatter. Shout on the winds, though the foaming hell grows hoarse with gusty thunder. Shout that the crashing, distracted, hurrying, eddying world is taken, prisoner in the highest. Ah, the live earth trembles beneath thy footsteps. The passionate, deep, shuddering words run along the ground. Who shall contain, who shall understand them? Surely, surely, age after age, out of the ground itself arising, from the chinks of the lips of the clods, and from between the blades of grass, up with the tall growing wheat surely ascending. Deep muttered, vast, inaudible, they come, the strange new words, through the frame of the great mother and through the frames of her children trembling. Freedom, and among the far nations there is a stir like the stir of the leaves of a forest. Joy, joy arising on earth. And lo, the banners lifted from point to point, and the spirits of the ancient races looking abroad, the divinely beautiful daughters of God calling to their children. The nations of the old and of the new worlds. See what hastening of feet, what throngs, what rustling movement. Lo, the divine East, from ages and ages back, intact her priceless jewel of thought, the germ of democracy, bringing down. Gentle and venerable India, well pleased now at last to hear fulfilled the words of her ancient sages. Lo, Arabia, peerless in dignity, eternal in manhood of love and war, pivoting like a center the races of mankind. Siberia, the aged mother, breaking forth uncontrollable into exultant shouting, from Kokand to farthest Kamchatka and the moss morasses of the Arctic Sea. See how they arise and call to each other. Norway, with wild hair streaming, dancing frantic on her mountain tops. Italy from dreams, from languid passionate memories amid her marble ruins, to deeds again arising. Greece, Belgium, Denmark, Ireland, liberty's deathless flame leaping on her Atlantic shore. Oh, the wild races of Africa, beautiful children of the sun, hardy and superb, givers of gifts to the common stock without which all the other gifts were useless. The native tribes still roaming in the freedom of the earth and the waters. The Greenlander and his little boy together in their canoe towing the dead seal. The tawny bronze Malay and Papuan and Australian through the interminable silent bush, tracking infallibly for water or the kangaroo. Lo, the great users and accumulators of materials, the proud and melancholy Titans, struggling with civilization. England, ringed with iron and with the glitter of her waves upon her. Germany, France, Russia, and the flow of East and West, and the throes of womanhood and the future. Lo, Spain, dark, proud, voiceless, biting her lips, with high white arm beckoning, beckoning. And you too, ye manifold stars and stripes, unto what great destiny? The peoples of the earth, the intertwining many-colored streams. China gliding seemingly unobservant among the crowd, self-restrained, of her own soul calmly possessed. The resplendent limbed Negro and half-caste. Do you not see that old woman there, with brow and nose and jaw dating conclusively back from far-away Egypt? The glitter-eyed caressing-handed Hindu, suave thoughtful Persian and faithful Turk, Mexico and the red Indian, O unconscious pleading eyes of the dying races, Japan and the isles of the Pacific, and the caravan wanderers and dwellers in the oases of Sahara. O glancing eyes, O leaping shining waters, do I not know that thou, democracy, dost control and inspire, that thou too hast relations to these, and a certainty, as surely as Niagara has relations to Erie and Ontario? 9. Lo, the spirit floats in the air. On his lips it kisses the young man from China, and the patient old man, and the spiritual-faced boy. And on his lips the long-eyed Japanese, and on his thick lips the Negro. Come, and to the forlorn emigrant, to the old Irish woman with shriveled brown anxious face, and to her barefoot beautiful daughter, and to the young fair-haired woman from Sweden, come, and to the Portuguese lad with shining teeth and smiling mouth, and to the long-haired Italian, and to the ruddy Scot, and to the young Tamil boy holding up flowers and pouring his morning libation of water to the sun, and to his grandmother superintending the household with quiet loving care, and to the rows of Hindu villagers squatted by the water tanks at early morning, bathing and chatting, and to the women, their wives, cleaning their brass glancing water pots, and to the noble Mahratta women, and to the beautiful almond-eyed women of Egypt, and to the shifty clever Eurasian, and to the stunted dweller by the sacred unfrozen lake of Tibet. Come, and to the wanderers lighting their campfires at the feet of the world-old statues at Thebes, and to the sacred exiles on the march to Irkutsk, to the wild riders across the plains of Wallachia, and to the sweet healthy-bodied English girl, and to the drink-marked prostitute, and to the convicted criminals, the diseased, decrepit, and destitute of all the earth, lo, my children, I give myself to you. I stretch my arms. On the lips each one, in the name of all, I kiss you. Come, and out of your clinging kisses, see, I create a new world. End of section 1. Section 2 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 10. Who understands? Who draws close as a little child? Ah, who is he who stands closest, and has heard the word himself uttered out of the ground from beneath the clods? Who is the wise statesman who walks hand in hand with his people, guiding and guided? Who is the child of the people, moving joyous, liquid, free among his equals, touching nearer the serene, untampered facts of earth and sky. Who is the poet whom love has made strong, strong, strong with all strength? Ah, who is he who says to the great good mother, "Cling fast, O mother, and hold me, clasp thy fingers over my face, and draw me to thee for ever"? 11. The scene changes. The sun and the stars are veiled. The solid earth alone is left. I am buried, I too, that I may rise again, deep underfoot among the clods, each one a transparent miracle, competent with man and his vast aspiring religions and civilizations. But for me they are only dirt, level wastes of sand and scrub, mud flats by the mouths of rivers, old disheveled rocks and oozy snow, trickling slime places, and ponds and bogs and mangrove marshes, and chattering shale slopes, and howling deserted ridges, and heaps of broken glass and old bones and shoes and pots and pans in blind alleys, and fogs along flat shores, and crimes, betrayals, murders, thefts, respectability, bad smells by house doors, filthy smelling interiors of factories and drawing rooms, stale scents, gas, dirt, evil faces, drunkenness, cruelty to animals, and the cruelty of animals to each other. This is the solid earth in the midst of which I am buried. Oh, I am mad. The lightning flashes on evil raw places. I stretch uneasily in my grave and tumble the towers of great cities with my feet. The volcanoes lurch and spill their molten liquor. I hate those nearest me, and am closed, captious, and intolerant. I sweep a great space round me and sulk in the middle of it. Now underneath the earth on which you walk, I sport in the fire of hell. Satan is my friend, and vicious blood-spilling lusts and clenched teeth push the way for me to destruction. I dance in the flames, and will claw everyone in. Take care how you cross me. You talk of goodness I despise. To every conceivable sin I hold out my hand. My touch blackens you. I crawl forth out of slime and worms and blink at the sun. I press my way madly through the gallows crowd to him who bears my reprieve held up on high. This is the cross. These are the eyes of Christ and of the crossing sweeper. This is the divine love which encloses and redeems all evil. Ah, here is peace. Flat curtains hang round me in every direction, as they hang round you, and behind them the live people go dancing and laughing, but we are not going to be baffled. Sex still goes first, and hands, eyes, mouth, brain follow. From the midst of belly and thighs radiate the knowledge of self, religion, and immortality. 12. The clods press suffocating closer and closer. Grit and filth accumulate in the eyes and mouth. I can neither see nor speak. The devil and the worms dance around. The immortal worms make their obeisance to you, and the religious devil grins at you. They compliment you on your superiority. The earth is for you and all that is therein, save what anyone else can grab. And universal love is for you, and to sleek yourself smoother than others in the glass, and to fly on from world to world, leaving sweet odors behind you. and to get cleverer and cleverer and better as you go, and to be generally superior. How very nice! The devil and the worms thank you for your kind invitation to accompany them, but regret that they are engaged. 13. This is poison. Do not touch it. The black brew of the cauldron out of which democracy firks its horned and shameless head. O disrespectable democracy, I love you. No white angelic spirit are you now, but a black and horned Ethiopian. Your great grinning lips and teeth and powerful brow and huge limbs please me well. Where you go about the garden there are great footmarks and an uncanny smell. The borders are trampled, and I see where you have lain and rolled in a great bed of lilies, bruising the sweetness from them. I follow you far afield and into the untrodden woods, and there, remote from man, you disclose yourself to me, goat-footed and sitting on a rock, as to the Athenian runner of old. You fill me with visions, and when the night comes I see the forests upon your flanks and your horns among the stars. I climb upon you and fulfill my desire. 14. The heights heighten and the depths deepen. From beneath the eyelids of man look forth new heavens and a new earth. The glitter of sunlight upon the waves is there. Here underneath the great lubricious roots grasp downward in darkness at the rocks. There the tall shaft shoots into air, and the leaves float poised in the sunshine, but the word conceals itself. Of the goat-legged god peering over the tops of the clouds, of the wild creature running in the woods, of whom the rabbits are not afraid, of him who peeps his horns in at the windows of the churches, and the congregation cross themselves, and the parson saws his loudest, of the shameless, lusty, unpresentable pal, of the despised one hobbling on hoofs, I dream. Of the despised and rejected, arising with healing in his wings, of the sane, sweet companion in the morning, of the lover who neither adorns nor disguises himself, I dream. 15. O democracy, I shout for you. Back, make me a space round me, you kid-gloved, rotten-breathed, paralytic world, with miserable antics mimicking the appearance of life. England, for good or evil, it is useless to attempt to conceal yourself. I know you too well. I am the very devil. I will tear your veils off, your false shows and pride I will trail in the dust. You shall be utterly naked before me, in your beauty and in your shame. For who better than I should know your rottenness, your self-deceit, your delusion, your hideous, grinning, corpse-chattering death-in-life business at top, and who better than I, the wonderful hidden sources of your strength beneath? Deceive yourself no longer. Do you think your smooth-faced respectability will save you? Or that cowardice carries a master key of the universe in its pocket, scrambling miserably out of the ditch on the heads of those beneath it? Do you think that it is a fine thing to grind cheap goods out of the hard labor of ill-paid boys? And do you imagine that all your commerce shows and manufactures are anything at all compared with the bodies and souls of these? Do you suppose I have not heard your talk about morality and religion, and set it face to face in my soul to the instinct of one clean, naked, unashamed man, or that I have not seen your coteries of elegant and learned people put to rout by the innocent speech of a child and the apparition of a mother suckling her own babe? Do you think that there ever was or could be infidelity greater than this? Do you grab interest on money and lose all interest in life? Do you found a huge system of national credit on absolute personal distrust? Do you batten like a ghoul on the dead corpses of animals, and then expect to be of a cheerful disposition? Do you put the loving beasts to torture as a means of promoting your own health and happiness? Do you, O foolish one, fancy to bind men together by laws, of all ideas the most laughable, and set whole tribes of unbelievers at work year after year patching that rotten net? Do you live continually further and further from nature till you actually doubt if there be any natural life or any avenging instinct in the dumb elements? And then do you wonder that your own life is slowly ebbing, that you have lost all gladness and faith? I do not a bit. I am disgusted with you, and will not cease till I have absolutely floored you. I do not care. You may struggle, but I am the stronger. Ah, England, have I not seen, do I not see now, plain as day, through thy midst the genius of thy true life wandering, he who can indeed, who can alone save thee? Seeking thy soul, thy real life, out of so much rubbish to disentangle. Plaintive the divine child, haply a moment by some cottage door, or by the side of some mechanic at his bench, lingering passes on. Through the great magnificent land, through its parks and country palaces and bewildering splendors of the resorts of wealth and learning, shy and plaintive passes. Is there no hand held out? Do not the learned people know him? Have the wealthy nothing to give? Will not the philanthropic reach a hand to this one? The guides are all talking. They are settling the affairs of the universe. They never cease. They have not settled yet which way to go themselves. How shall they give help to an ignorant child? They are busy, moreover, distributing money and pamphlets, and surely nothing more can be needed. They are very busy. They are worn out and rest not. Their faces are without sleep. Nevertheless they go on. Was it said that any man could be contented? It is a lie. Or happy? It is mere foolishness. These things are the dreams of youthful ignorance. The affairs of the universe and the continual fluctuations of the stock exchange are too great an anxiety. Meanwhile the old woman was staggering homeward under a load of sticks, but none offered to relieve her of her burden, and indeed, when you think of it, how could they, for it would have spoiled their clothes. The poor boy was taken with a fit upon the doorstep, but it was best not to take him, all dirty and slavering, into the nicely carpeted house. The criminal had suffered shipwreck in life and was deserted, but of course it would not have done to be seen consorting with him. Oh, happy, happy guides, to whom such mighty issues are confided! Happy, happy child, who need not stay to hear the end of their talk, whom I saw in vision, silent and musing within itself, pass away from among those people. 16. Will you continually deny yourself you? Will you forever turn aside? These are not the times, remember, of canary birds, when the thunder growls along the horizon. O England, do I not know thee, as in a nightmare, strangled, tied, and bound? Thy poverty, when through thy filthy courts from tangles of matted hair gaunt women with venomous faces look upon me, when I see the thin joyless faces of their children, and the brick walls scarcely recognizable as brick for dirt, and the broken windows, when I breathe the thick polluted air in which not even plants will live, when oaths and curses are yelled in my ears, and the gibbering face of drink starts upon me at every corner, when I turn from this and consider throughout the length and breadth of the land, not less but more hateful, the insane greed of riches, of which poverty and its evils are but the necessary obverse and counterpart, when I see deadly respectability sitting at its dinner table, quaffing its wine, and discussing the rise and fall of stocks, when I see the struggle, the fear, the envy, the profound infidelity, so profound that it is almost unconscious of itself, in which the moneyed classes live, when the faces of their children come to me pleading, pleading, every bit as much as the children of the city poor, pleading for one touch of nature, of children who have been stuffed with lies all their lives, who have been told that they cannot do without this and that and 1,000 things, all of which are wholly unnecessary and a nuisance, as who should tell one that it were not safe to walk on the naked earth, but only on ground embarrassed with straw and all manner of rubbish up to one's knees, of children who have been taught to mix the nonsense manners and diarrhea of drawing rooms with their ideals of right and wrong, to despise manual labor and to reverence ridicule, to eat and drink and dress and sleep in unbelief and against all their natural instincts, and in all things to mingle the disgust of repletion with the very thought of pleasure, till their young judgments are confused and their instincts actually cease to be a guide to them, of strong healthy boys who positively believe they will starve unless they enter the hated professions held out to them, when I see avenues of young girls and women with sideway flopping heads, debarred from work, debarred from natural sexuality, weary to death with nothing to do, and this thy triumph, O deadly respectability, discussing stocks, when I see flickering around miserable spectrums and nostrums of reform, mere wisps devoid of all body, philanthropic chatterboxes, nay, I do not hold with you, for if you kill me to death talking to me in a drawing room, what in the name of heaven are you going to do to the unfortunate in hospital? When I hear and see the droning and seesawing of pulpits, when the vision of perfect vulgarity and commonplaceness arises upon me of society, and of that which arrogates to itself the sacred name of England, the puppet dance of gentility, condescension, white hands, unspoiled dress, charitable proprietorship, in the street, the barracks, the church, the shop, the house, the school, the assembly, in eating, drinking, and saying good morning and good night, of the theory of what it is to be a lady or a gentleman, of exclusiveness, and of being in the swim, of the drivel of aristocratic connections, of drawing rooms and levees and the theory of animated clothes pegs generally, of belonging to clubs, and of giving pence to crossing sweepers without apparently seeing them, of helplessly living in houses with people who feed you, dress you, clean you, and despise you, of driving in carriages, of being intellectual, of prancing about and talking glibly on all subjects on the theory of setting things right, and leaving others to do the dirty work of the world, of having read books by the score and being yet unable to read a single page, of writing and yet ignorant how to sign your name, of talking about political economy and politics and never having done a single day's labor in your life, of being a magistrate or a judge and never having committed a common crime or been in the position to commit one, of being a parson and afraid to be seen topping with Christ in a public, a barrister and to travel in a third-class carriage, an officer and to walk with one of your own men. When I see the sea spreading of infidelity, of belief in externals, in money, big guns, laws, views, accomplishments, cheap goods, town councillors, cabinet ministers, MPs, generals, judges, bishops, all alike, when I look for help from the guides and see only a dead waste of aimless, abject, close-shaven, shabby, simpering, flat, pompous, peaked, punctilious faces, O England, whither, strangled, tied, and bound, whither, whither art thou come? End of section 2. Section 3 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 17. I choke, or should choke, did I not know very well I could tear all these bonds to pieces like withes of dry grass. Did I not know too that these are after all in place as they are, nor could be better than they are. The natural sheath protecting the young bud, fitting close, stranglingly close, till the young thing gains a little more power, and then falling, dry, useless, their work finished, to the ground. Strangled, O God? Nay, the circle of gibbering faces draws closer, the droning noises become louder, the weight gets heavier, unbearable. One instant struggle, and lo! It is over. Daylight, the sweet rain is falling, and I hear the songs of birds. Blessings and thanks forever for the sweet rain. Blessings for the fresh air blowing, and the meadows illimitable, and the grass, and the clouds. Blessings and thanks for you, you wild waters eternally flowing. Oh, come flowing, encroaching over me, in my ears. I salute you who are pure and sweet. Ah, what designs, what love are hid within you. I praise you for your faithfulness forever. 18. To descend first, to feel downwards and downwards through this wretched maze of shams for the solid ground, to come close to the earth itself and those that live in direct contact with it, to identify, to saturate yourself with these, their laws of being, their modes of life, their needs, the earth's also, thoughts, temptations, and aspirations. This, is it not the eternal precept, is the first thing to dig downwards? Afterwards the young shoot will ascend, and ascending easily, part aside the overlying rubbish. These are not the times of canary birds, nor of trifling with art and philosophy and impertinent philanthropic schemes. This is the time of grown men and women. Of or among the people, always living close to the earth and the people, and creating what they create out of them. Young men and women, I, though not of myself alone, call you. The time is come. Is not the sweet rain falling? You, for whom the bitter cup and the sweet are so strangely mixed, how strangely none but you can tell. You, in whom divine strength is one with the uttermost weakness. In soberness of spirit as to some long and patient task in death alone ending, I call. Strong in peace, strong in turmoil and conflict, strong in yourselves, undaunted, with large hearts, with large strong hands. Spreaders of health better than any doctor, to individuals, to the diseased, prostrate nation, sustainers of ridicule, clearers of the ground laden with the accumulated wreck and rubbish of centuries. Lovers of all handicrafts, and of labor in the open air, confessed passionate lovers of your own sex, arise. Heroes of the enfranchisement of the body, latest and best gift long concealed from men, arise. As the north wind in summer runs over the world, making a clear light down to the very horizon, so is the world prepared for you. Come, I too call you. I too have looked in your eyes. O you of great faith and few words, you cannot escape now. Under your eyelids I have seen, shy, hidden away, pure without taint, one with the fresh air to sweeten all the world, lo, the greatest faith of all. You sacred ones, first interpreters, you holders up of new ideals, you greatest and least, you who are and by your mere presence create democracy, arise. Thou woman, gentle born and sensitive, yet incapable of being shocked or disgusted, arise. Thou one strong man in love sufficient, out of the heart of the people, arise. 19. Heroes, lovers, judges, despised, outcast, ridiculed, princes and kings and destitute, drudges and slaves, mothers, free women and feminine neuters, actors, parsons, squires, capitalists, rich dinners, fine houses. It is all the same. I go back upon my own words. The parks and the opera, unobtrusive, unguessed, day by day and year by year, talking loud, talking soft, in the fashion and out, dreaming of duty, love, release, nature, organization, hatred, death, ascetic, lusty, genial, maimed, incoherent, proud. By tradition, military, money-broking, official, commercial, idle, literary, church, chapel, and club. In all forms and in all places, weary yet unwearied, before dawn rising and through the window peering at the untroubled sky, weak yet indomitable, suffering yet filled with exceeding joy. Age after age under the earth hidden, the womb of the dead generations arising to life again, myriads of seeds, chrysalids, pupae, cysts, rootlets, transparent white bulbs of souls in Hades, by faith working many miracles, thrills of magnetism through the whole vast frame, summer heat and winter cold and the kiss of the living air, death and decay and weakness and prostration and poisonous inbreaths, and nearer, 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 life and joy everlasting. Through the city crowd pushing, wrestling, shouldering, against the tide, face after face, breath of liquor, money-grubbing eye, infidel skin, shouts, threats, greetings, smiles, eyes and breasts of love, breathless, clutches of lust, limbs, bodies, torrents, bursts, savage onslaughts, tears, entreaties, tremblings, stranglings, suicidal, the sky, the houses, surges and crests of waves, white faces from afar bearing down nearer, nearer, almost touching, and glances unforgotten and meant to be unforgotten. 20. I do not forget you. I see you quite plainly. Tangles of social claims, conveyances, toy duties, fine soft carpeted house, array of servants, failing and failing health, growing and settled sadness, ennui, wearisome pleasures, hypersensitiveness, golden handcuffs, the prison life of custom, without one touch of nature, desperate beating of wings and breast against the bars, trailing slime and winding web of lies impossible to escape from, careful obediences, sleek hat and well-brushed coat, blameless deference to public opinion, the desk, the counter, the exchange, the walk home, the favorable comments of passers-by, and within, blinding, burning hatred, bottomless yawning pits opening in the midst of life, of love, of jealousy, of desire, vast gales and whirlwinds carrying away the superstructure and the plans of years. Waves and storms of the ocean within, shipwreck and disaster of life, fortune, health, honor, love, gone down seemingly irretrievably in the great signless waste, and still the stars shining calm on the flying spray, and the immense placid heaven unmoved, going back to innumerable other worlds and radiant birthplaces and pilgrimages and possessions of the soul without end. 21. I do not forget you. I see you quite plainly. But why should one God leave his throne to scrape favors at the feet of other gods? Surely it is enough to be here, and always to be here. I weave these words about myself to form a seamless web without beginning or ending. I do not spin a yarn for you to reel off at your leisure, nor do I pour out water into pots. This is one of my bodies, of the female, which if you penetrate with true sexual power, clinging it shall conceive, and you shall know me in part by the answer of the eyes of children, yours and mine, looking up from the grass and down from the sky upon you as you walk. And if you understand me, I will draw you away from all sorrow, so that no evil can happen to you. Not at first will it be so, but afterwards, after a time. 22. You cannot escape me, and this place of my presence I will never leave, till I have saturated myself, till the waves of my love have traveled over the whole vast ocean of existence from where I stand. The horse, galloping over the plains, cannot escape the plains it gallops over. Leagues and leagues out in the sunlight I lie, the winds of heaven blow over me. I desire nothing more. I am perfectly content. Yes, you cannot escape me. At night I creep down and lie close in the great city. There I am at home. Hours and hours I lie stretched there. The feet go to and fro, beside and over me. Oaths and curses and obscene jokes. The group of laughing men and girls tumbling out of the doors of the beer shop. the haggard old woman under the flaring gas jet by the butcher's stall. The butcher sometimes gives her a bit of waste meat in charity. The butcher himself with his smooth grizzled hair and florid face. You cannot escape me. You soaring, yearning face of youth, threading the noisy crowd. Though you soar to the stars, you cannot escape me. I remain where I am. I make no effort. Wherever you go, it is the same to me. I am there already. The murmuring of many voices is in my ears. As I lie on my side, hour after hour, the drowse of myriads of feet is upon me. Hour after hour, hour after hour, and I sleep well content. 23. Closer and closer will I come, till I lay hold of you, myself and none other. As one grasps a drowning man with a grasp that will not be relaxed, so will I grasp you. You shall not escape me. Ah, death and hell with thy gaping jaws, into thee at length I am curious to descend. Curious am I to go where the old empty masks of fear and disaster are kept, and to see where they hang, hereafter, useless forever. 24. Are you laughed at? Are you scorned? Do they gaze at you and giggle to each other as you pass by? Do they despise you because you are misshapen, because you are awkward, because you are peculiar, because you fail in everything you do, and you know it is true? Do you go to your chamber and hide yourself, and think that no one thinks of you, or when they do, only with contempt? My child, there is one that not only thinks of you, but who cannot get on at all without you. Are you alone in the world? Have you sinned? Have you a terrible secret within you which must out, yet you dare not reveal it? Have you a face so disfigured that no one will look straight in your eyes? Have you a mortal disease? Do you feel the beating pulse of it in the dead of the night? At midday, when the passers-by go to and fro in the bright sunshine, do you feel the shadowy call of it to another world? Are you tormented with inordinate clutching lusts which you dare not speak? Are you nearly mad with the sting of them, and nearly mad with terror lest they should betray you? My child, there is one who understands perfectly. There is nothing betrayed, and there is nothing to betray. It is all straightforward. There is no fraction of your days, your body, your thoughts, your passions, which has not deliberately and calmly been prepared, and which shall not deliberately and calmly be removed again when it has played its part. There is no prejudice here, or weakness, or self-righteousness, nor any apartness at all. You are included, and all that is done and felt by you is done and felt at the same instant by not you. Whatever you are, and whatever you do, there is one who will and does look you candidly in the face and understands you. You may recoil from that gaze, but if you learn to encounter and return it, whether in one or many lifetimes, you will see that from it at length all secret terrors, shams, disfigurements, death itself vanish away, and you will not only not be alone in the world, but you will be a sovereign lord over the world. End of section 3. Section 4 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 25. Apart from all evil, from all that seems to you evil, your soul, my friend, that towards which you aspire, which will become you one day, your true self rides above your phantasmal self continually. Do not fear, it is there. Through all the baffling and confusion, through all the seeming haphazard and labyrinth darkness of life, it is there, overseeing, quietly selecting, directing, ordaining. It is Lord of all. If there were chance it were evil, but there is not. The soul surrounds chance and takes it captive. And all experience, what you call good and what you call evil alike, it takes and greedily absorbs, nor ever can have enough. Are you not sometimes aware of your own body, how it goes about, moving hither and thither? Are you not aware of it in the street among others, exchanging greetings, and those who exchange the greetings absolutely equal before you? Are you not aware of it at night, lying awake, perhaps in pain? Are you not aware of it wandering over the hills at sunrise, or out at sea, in the agonized white faces of the people on board, and the ship is foundering? Are you not aware of it north and south, east and west, by day and night, in winter and summer, in childhood and in age, gathering, culling, assimilating without end and with unerring instinct? And you, all the time, you, what, like some great Egyptian king god, seated, marble, with wide eyes looking out over the procession, chariots and horsemen, which creeps past in his honor, over them to the plains and the winding river? Do not fear, do not be discouraged by the tiny insolences of people. For yourself be only careful that you are true. The dreams of the dark-faced, yearning, swift-souled Egyptians, conceiving into stone eternal types of calm passion, the dreams of Phidias, the dreams of the dreamers of all the earth falling passionate before the visionary beauty of womanhood and manhood, are true. The dust, the wretched blur and distortion, are but for a moment. They are no more than they are. When you shall behold yourself in the clean mirror of God, you shall be wholly satisfied. The body is a root of the soul. As the body in air, so the soul sustains itself in love. The medium in which the knowledge of yourself subsists is equality. When you have penetrated into that medium, as the young shoot penetrates into the sunlight, you shall know that it is so. You shall realize yourself, but not till then. Hereafter, the face of nature, the faces of the sea and of the fields, the faces of the animals, hereafter the faces of them that pass in the street, are changed. Nothing escapes. The line is cast over them all. They cannot choose but yield themselves to you, my friend, delivering the essence of their life to you. Hereafter certain things, all important before, become indifferent. Certain thoughts with which you had tormented yourself torment you no longer. The chains fall off. On the other hand, the ways which were forbidden and inaccessible become accessible. On all hands the doors stand open to your touch. 26. Wonderful! The doors that were closed stand open. Yet how slight a thing it is! The upturning of a palm, the curve of a lip, an eyelid, nothing. Nothing that can be seen with the mortal eye, or heard by the ear, nothing that can be definitely thought, spoken or written in a book, yet the doors that were treble bolted and barred, and the doors weed overgrown and with rusty old hinges, fly open of themselves. 27. Did you once desire to shine among your peers, or did you shrink from the knowledge of your own defect in the midst of them? Did you, friend, covet so to be more beautiful, witty, virtuous, to be able to tell a story, or sustain an argument well, or be able to discourse on any subject, or to be a skillful rider, or a good shot? Or shrank from the ridicule which the reverse of these excited, which was certain and is still certain to come upon you? Was it really your own anxious face you used to keep catching in the glass? Was it really you who had so many things, one way or another, you wanted to conceal from others, so many opinions too to disguise? All that is changed now. But what if your prayers had been granted? What if you had become exceptional and had secured for yourself a place with the strong and the gifted and the beautiful? What if, when you arrived, the eyes of all had been turned upon you, and when you had passed by, one by one, sad, thoughtful, depressed, the weak more conscious of his or her weakness, the stupid more conscious of stupidity, the deformed more painfully conscious of his or her deformity, to their solitary chambers they had gone apart and prayed they had never been born? What if you had taken advantage of the weak and defenseless and oppressed of the whole earth, and had bartered away belief in the soul standing omnipotent in the most despised things? What if you had gladly disguised and covered your own defect, allowing thus the ignorant ridicule of the world to fall more heavily on those who could not or would not act a lie? What if you had been a rank deserter, a cowardly slave, taking refuge always with the stronger side? Ah, what if to one weary traveler in the world, in the steep path painfully mounting, you, making it steeper still, had added the final stone of stumbling and despair? Better to be effaced, crazy, criminal, deformed, degraded. Better instead of the steep to be the most dull, flat, and commonplace road. Better to go clean under foot of all weak and despised persons, so that they shall not even notice that you are there. None so rude and uneducated but you shall go under foot of them. None so criminal but you shall, when the occasion serves, go under foot of them. None so outcast but they shall pass along you and not even notice that you are there. 28. The undistinguished old earth, the dusty clods, the mere brown handfuls crumbled through the fingers, out of which proceed the trees and the grasses and the animals roaming through them, and man with his vast aspiring religions and civilizations. The common and universal, the servant girl tying up her hair before the broken mirror hung from a nail in the wall, the daisy child face looking at you from the side of the path as you pass, the slow humour of old gaffers on the village seat in the sun. These contain you. With all your ambitions you cannot escape and go beyond these. It is impossible. The bride attiring herself in her white veil, the brilliant and admired wit of the salons, the mathematician in his study, cannot go beyond these, any more than the earth can go beyond and fly out of space. It is impossible. It is unthinkable. Far around and beyond whatever is exceptional and illustrious in human life stretches that which is average and unperceived. All distinctions, all attainments, all signal beauty, skill, wit, and whatever a man can exhibit in himself swim and are lost in that great ocean. The subtle learning of the learned, the beauty of the exceptionally beautiful, the wit of the witty, the fine manners and customs of the courtly, all these things proceed immediately out of the common and undistinguished people and those who stand in direct contact with nature, and return into them again. The course of all is the same. They are tossed up, thinner and thinner, into mere spray at last, like a wave from the breast of the ocean, and fall back again. You try to set yourself apart from the vulgar. It is in vain. In that instant vulgarity attaches itself to you. If it did not, you would cease to exist. 29. Gold is not finer than lead, nor lead than gold. Every atom of each has its own life, movement, intelligence, and ridicules epithets. The stars are not more human to the soul than is the deep background of night behind them. And what would the shoal of merry leaping children playing there in the sun be without the mother love in which they swim all the while as in an ocean? To be yourself, to have measureless trust, to enjoy all, to possess nothing. That which you have, your skill, your strength, your knack of pleasant thoughts, they belong to all. It is a fact, and the others looking on you know it. That which you have not, your scornful defects, your dumbnesses, your aches and pains, and silent hours of suffering, to understand that you can give of them too, inexhaustible store, as the old brown earth gives out of her heart to men, and she knows it, but they do not know it. To walk along the path which has an equal good on either hand, to give the sign of equality, to entertain no possible fear or doubt about the upshot of things, to be yourself, to have measureless trust. Perhaps that is best of all. 30. Curious how much, and the disentangling of self, depends upon ideals. Who is this, for instance, easy with open shirt and brown neck and face, the whites of his eyes just seen in the sultry twilight through the city garden swinging? The fountain plashes cool in its basin, and mixes its murmur with the sound of feet going to and fro upon gravelled walks. The massed foliage above catches the evening light, catches the rising wind, and sways like the sea on a calm day. The voices of children are heard. But who is this? Who anyhow is he that is simple and free and without afterthought, who passes among his fellows without constraint and without encroachment, without embarrassment and without grimaces, and does not act from motives? Who is ignorant or careless of what is termed politeness? Who makes life wherever he goes desirable, and removes stumbling blocks instead of creating them? Grave and strong and untamed, this is the clear-browed, unconstrained, tender face, with full lips and bearded chin. This is the regardless, defiant face I love and trust, which I came out to see, and having seen, do not forget. And not I alone. See, on the little public round the fountain scattered, on the seats lounging or walking to and fro, the strange effect. The dressed-up man of the world eyes him curiously, and does not forget. The pale student eyes him. He envies his healthy face and unembarrassed manner. The delicate lady sees him well, though she does not seem to. Secretly now she loathes her bejeweled lord, and desires piteously the touch of this man's muscular, lithe, sun-embrowned body. The common people salute him as their equal, and call him by his name. The children know him. They run after him and catch him by the hand. Curious how all the poetry, the formative life of the scene, the rushing scent of the lime trees, the evening light, the swaying of the foliage, the rustle of feet below, the yearning threads of the fine lady's life, how the sympathy of the little public by the fountain all gathers round this figure. There was a time when the sympathy and the ideals of men gathered round other figures, when the crowned king, or the priest in procession, or the knight errant, or the man of letters in his study were the imaginative forms to which men clung. But now, before the easy homely garb and appearance of this man as he swings past in the evening, all these others fade and grow dim. They come back after all and cling to him. And this is one of the slowly unfolded meanings of democracy. 31. The world travels on, and shall travel on. A few centuries shall not exhaust the meanings of it. In you and me too, inevitably, its meanings wait their unfolding. No old laws, precedents, combinations of men or weapons can retard it. No new laws, schemes, combinations, discoveries can hasten it, but only the new births within the soul, you and me. Sacred for this is the day, and sacred is the night. Sacred are life and death, because, O wonderful of this! When yes has once been pronounced in that region, then the no of millions is nothing at all. Then fire, the stake, death, ridicule, and bitter extermination are of no avail whatever. When the ideal has once alighted, when it has looked forth from the windows with ever so passing a glance upon the earth, then we may go into supper, you and I, and take our ease. The rest will be seen to. When a new desire has declared itself within the human heart, when a fresh plexus is forming among the nerves, then the revolutions of nations are already decided, and histories unwritten are written. End of section 4. Section 5 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 32. I charge you, O traveler, that you disbelieve not. A voice comes in the cool of the evening. I charge you that in the secret unspoken word you disbelieve not, sacred and the first almighty thing. Moving among cities and over the open sea, advancing to deliverance in us. Night and day, youth and old age, willing and unwilling, advancing to deliverance in us. Dumb and of no account, her beauty now and then only, or at night when no one is near, before the glass disrobing, trembling, lonely, unresponded, yet mightier than all the array and splendor of the earth, I charge you that you do not disbelieve. Outwards all proceeds. Brahma from himself sheds and shreds the universes. I from myself, you from yourself. Today the slave goes first in his chains, and the voiceless, and those that are without arguments and always in the wrong. And the prisoner with slouched head and the suspected and insulted in rags, and those whose hearts bleed silently because of what they see, and the old forsaken mother, and the cast-aside woman, and the child, and the favourless, and the drunkard shall go first. The mechanic today shall go before his master, the bricklayer shall be saluted in the street before the architect, the navy shall be accounted more than the politician, and I will give the illiterate the advantage of those that read and write. The scouted and the exiled and the unheard of, laborers in the fields and in mines, quarrymen and lime-kilners and brick-burners, and makers and cleaners of drains and household drudges, shall be nearest in honor, the burdened of every day, and the sufferers, the overworked and hope forlorn, and the concealers of sin and sorrow and despair shall head the procession, and with them one of whom I have spoken, moving unseen hither and thither, side by side, first with one and then with another, shall resume and make all plain, shall be himself the beginning and ending of it all. 33. When he descends, when he comes to take dominion, do you think that anything else will do? Do you think that he will perhaps be put off by offers sufficiently liberal and arguments? Do you think that he will be deeply impressed by your grave how, and it cannot be, or that he will ascend into your high houses and take his ease with you, and lounge, smoking and looking wearily at the sky till he forgets what he has come for? Do you think he will pay great attention to your hat and boots, or to what they write before or after your name, or to what they say of you next door, or will ask what church you go to, or what conventicle or schism shop, or inquire into the soundness of your investments? Do you think he will drive about with you in your carriages, dispensing charities like an oriental prince, and occasionally even say a few words to the coachman, or that it will be pretense or mere kindly patronage if he prefers the coachman's company to yours? Do you think that perhaps he will be very bland and gentle, and never be rude or coarsely dressed, and that he will be highly interested in what you tell him, and that he won't at a single look know all that ever you did? Do you suppose that he will not know which is the top and which is the bottom of things? Or that he will be impressed by your cleverness and smart repartees? Or that he will reckon you up by the number of books you have read? Do not deceive yourself, for it is yourself that you are trying to deceive, not him. 34. The magistrate sits on the bench, but he does not exercise judgment. The doctor dispenses medicine, but he has heard no tidings of what health is. The parson opens his mouth, but no intelligible sound comes forth. The merchant distributes evils just the same as goods. Do you suppose it is all for nothing that disbelief has gone out over the world, that weariness has taken possession of the souls of the rich, and that fatal darkness enfolds the head of wealth and education? That men disbelieve in the human heart, and think that the source of power is set otherwhere than in its burning, glowing depths, that the powers which they worship are but so many withered emblems of power, dead scoria nodding and jostling over the living lava stream. Do you suppose it is all for nothing that the eyes of brothers avoid in the street, and none sees what is before him, that the heel is upon the head, and earth alone regards the faces of them that are oppressed, that the stones in the wintry fields are become confidants, and the ground is sown with compressed thought like seeds. When yet there is peace over the world, as of the sea swooning away in its hollows, and differences are sullen like rocks at ebb tide, and brackish dismal mud flats lie between, and the sun stands motionless overhead, and contempt trickles malarious, and avoidance and negation and fear loom up against the sky, and men cling like rotting weeds about their bases, and the soul stifles for the swinging life of the waves and the breath of the wind that blows from one end of the world to the other. Do you suppose it means nothing that that which satisfied once satisfies now no more, not till the whole round has been made, but unrest and hunger are eating through men's souls? That a new need gone up is more than all precedent, and history shrivels before the will, even if it be only of one man. That the pilgrimage has begun, and men are leaving their long-loved homes by thousands, and the tenderest hearted are the first to sever the old ties. That centuries of suffering have compressed thought and purpose into one, till they are harder than rock, so that you shall remove mountains, but you shall not remove the word which has gone forth. That expediency and logic expostulate in vain, and man has become wholly unreasonable, and is calm to drop utility into the bottomless pit, and the wise cover their lights, but the foolish flash theirs and are whirled away like fireflies into a thunderstorm. Do you suppose it means nothing when the godlike hand comes forth, the awful hand sacred with the kisses of the generations of men, when the hand of necessity comes forth from the cloud and covers dark the faces of them who have never known it, turning them back from their ruin, but stands in the clear sky, beckoning bright like a pillar of fire for weary fugitives? When the awful vision moves across the sky, and the earth is electric under it, and the grass stands stiffly, and the blue thistle in the hedge is erect with meaning, and men are amorous for the naked stinging touch of the world, and to wrestle limb to limb with the wind and the waves. When poverty and hardship smile for their espousal, and fierce endurance is fused into one passion with love, and the glitter of concealment is torn away, and the loins are compressed, and the eyes aflame with lust, toward that which shall surely be born. When wealth is slowly and visibly putrefying, and putrefying the old order of things, when the surface test is final, the rainbow-colored scum, and society rotting down beneath it, a trick of clothing or speech, metallic chink in the pocket, white skin, soft hands, fawning and lying looks, everywhere the thrust of rejection, the bond of redemption nowhere, the sacred gifts all violated, stale and profaned, men and women falling off from them listless, like satiated leeches. When labor is not loyal and true, nor the laborers loyal and true to each other, when a man has no pride in the creation of his hands, nor rejoices to make it perfect, when machinery is perfectly organized and human souls are hopelessly disorganized, do you think all these things mean nothing? 35. Ah, England, ah, beating, beating heart, no wonder you are weary, weary of talk, weary seeking amid the scramble of words and the scramble of wealth, amid the fashionable, the scientific, the artistic, the commercial, the political, the learned and literary scramble, weary, seeking, seeking, seeking for a God, as it ever was and will be, as a thief in the night, silently and where you least expect, unlearned perhaps, without words, without arguments, without influential friends or money, leaning on himself alone, without accomplishments and graces, without any lineaments for your old doubts, or recipes for constructing new theological or philosophical systems, with just the whole look of himself in his eyes, the Son of Man shall, yes, shall appear in your midst, O beating heart, your lover and your judge shall appear. He will not bring a new revelation. He will not at first make any reply to the eager questions about death and immortality. He will present no stainless perfection. But he will do better. He will present something absolute, primal, the living rock, something necessary and at first hand, and men will cling to him therefore. He will restore the true balance. He will not condemn, but he will be absolute in himself. He will be the terrible judge to whom everyone will run. He will be the lover and the judge in one. The Son of Man. Ponder well these words. After all, I cannot explain them. It is impossible to explain that which is itself initial and elementary. You will look 1,000 times before you see that which you are looking for. It is so simple. Not science, O beating heart, nor theology, nor wrappings, nor philanthropy, nor high acrobatic philosophy, but the Son, and so equally the daughter, of man. 36. I hear the sound of the whetting of scythes. The beautiful grass stands tall in the meadows, mixed with sorrel and buttercups. The steamships move on across the sea, leaving trails of distant smoke. I see the tall white cliffs of Albion. I smell the smell of the new-mown grass, the waft of the thought of death. The white fleeces of the clouds move on in the everlasting blue, with the dashing and the spray of waves below. It comes and recedes again, and comes nearer, out of the waves and the tall white cliffs and the clouds and the grass. End of section 5. Section 6 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 37. The towers of Westminster stand up by the river, and within the supposed rulers contend and argue, but they hear nothing. It comes to them last. The long lines of princely mansions stretch through Belgravia and Kensington, close-lipped, deaf, plague-stricken. Lines of carriages crowd the park. Tier above tier at the opera are faces and flowers. There are clubs and literary cliques and entertainments, but the voice of human joy, native once more in the world, there is scarcely a note. Over all the towns and villages of the land, the fingers of the spires point dumb to the driving clouds. York Minster stands up like a watchtower in the rising sun, and from the midst of its Roman walls looks out over leagues of meadows and cornfields. Salisbury stands up, and Ely lonesome among its old-world fens, but they report nothing seen. From the Hoe at Plymouth the promenade loafers look down upon the decks of passing vessels. The line of the breakwater stretches, and the wild sea beyond. The convicts, thousands, motionless-faced, in yellow-dressed gangs, dot the thinly grassed rocks and fortress walls of the Isle of Portland. Victoria the Queen peers from the high windows of Osborne back upon Portsmouth, crowded with shipping, and the grass downs of the island that lies behind it. The mail steamers go to and fro, of Dover and Folkestone. The passengers arrive from the continent. Idlers are watching the arrivals, and police officers in disguise, but they report nothing. Winchelsea and Rye stand forgotten by the water, on rocks beaten now only by the waving meadows. The old Martello towers dot the long, low shores. Down the Thames with the tide the great vessels come swinging. St. Paul's looks out upon them, white in far glimpses over the great city. The seagulls dip and hover where the waters meet. The cutters of Yarmouth leave the river and make between the long sands for the open sea and the banks. 38. England spreads like a map below me. I see the mudflats of the Wash striped with water at low tide, the embankments grown with mugwort and sea asters, and Boston stump and King's Lynn, and the square sail brigs in the offing. Beachy Head stands up beautiful with white walls and pinnacles from its slopes of yellow poppy and bugloss. The sea below creeps with a grey fog. The vessels pass and are folded out of sight within it. I hear their foghorns sounding. Flamborough Head stands up, dividing the waves. Up its steep gullies the fishermen haul their boats. In its caves the waters make perpetual music. I see the rock-bound coast of Anglesey with projecting ribs of wrecks. The hills of Wicklow are faintly outlined across the water. I ascend the mountains of Wales. The tarns and streams lie silver below me. The valleys are dark. Mole Siabod stands up beautiful, and Trifon and Cader Idris in the morning air. I descend the Wye and pass through the ancient streets of Monmouth and of Bristol. I thread the feathery birch-haunted combes of Somerset. I ascend the high points of the Cotswolds and look out over the rich vale of Gloucester to the Malvern Hills, and see the old city clustering round its church, and the broad waters of the Severn, and the distant towers of Berkeley Castle. The river streams run on below me. The broad deep-bosomed Trent through the rich meadows full of cattle, under tall shady trees, runs on. I trace it to its birthplace in the hills. I see the Derbyshire Derwent darting in trout-haunted shallows over its stones. I taste and bathe in the clear brown moor-fed water. I see the sweet-breathed cottage homes and homesteads dotted for miles and miles and miles. It comes near to them. I enter the wheelwright's cottage by the angle of the river. The door stands open against the water and catches its changing syllables all day long. Roses twine, and the smell of the woodyard comes in wafts. The castle rocks of Nottingham stand up bold over the Trent Valley. The tall flagstaff waves its flag. The old marketplace is full of town and country folk. The river goes on, broadening seaward. I see where it runs beneath the great iron swing bridges of the railroads. There are canals connecting with it, and the sails of the canal boats gliding on a level with the meadows. The great sad colorless flood of the Humber stretches before me. The low-lying banks, the fog, the solitary vessels, the brackish marshes and the water birds. Hull stretches with its docks, vessels are unlading, bags of shellfish, cargoes of oranges, timber, fish. I see the flat lands beyond Hull and the enormous flights of pewits. The Thames runs down with the sound of many voices. I hear the sound of the sawmills and flour mills of the Cotswolds. I can see racing boats and hear the shouts of partisans. Villages bask in the sun below me. Sonning and Maidenhead. Anglers and artists are hid in nooks among tall willow herbs. I glide with tub and outrigger past flower gardens, meadows, parks. Parties of laughing girls handle the oars and tiller ropes. Teddington, Twickenham, Richmond, Brentford glide past. I hear the songs. I hear Elizabethan echoes. I come within sound of the roar of London. I see the woodland and rocky banks of the Tavy and Tamar, and of the arrowy Dart. The Yorkshire Ouse winds sluggish below me. Afar off I catch the Sussex Ouse and Arun, breaking seaward through the gaps in the downs. I look down from the Cheshire moors upon the Dee. In their pride the beautiful cities of England stand up before me. From the midst of her antique elms and lilac and laburnum haunted gardens, the grey gateways and towers of Cambridge stand up. Ivy-grown Warwick peeps out of thick foliage. I see Canterbury and Winchester and Chester and Worcester proud by her riverside, and the ancient castles, York and Lancaster looking out seaward, and Carlisle. I see the glistening of carriage wheels and the sumptuous shine of miles of sea frontage at Brighton and Hastings and Scarborough. Clifton climbs to her heights over the Avon, and ruins of Whitby Abbey are crusted with spray. I hear the ring of hammers in the shipyards at Chatham and Portsmouth and Keyham, and look down upon wildernesses of masts and dock basins. I see the observatory at Greenwich, and catch the pulses of star-taken time spreading in waves over the land. I see the delicate spider-web of the telegraphs and the rush of the traffic of the great main lines, north, west, and south. I see the solid flow of businessmen northward across London Bridge in the morning, and the ebb at evening. I see the eternal systole and diastole of exports and imports through the United Kingdom, and the armies of those who assist in the processes of secretion and assimilation, and the great markets. I explore the palaces of dukes, the parks and picture galleries, Chatsworth, Hardwicke, Arundel, and the numberless old abbeys. I walk through the tall windowed hospitals and asylums of the great cities, and hear chants caught up and wandering from ward to ward. I see all over the land the beautiful centuries-grown villages and farmhouses nestling down among their trees, the dear old lanes and footpaths, and the great clean highways connecting, the fields, every one to the people known by its own name, and hedgerows, and little struggling copses, and village greens. I see the great sweeps of country, the rich wealds of Sussex and Kent, the orchards and deep lanes of Devon, the willow-haunted flats of Huntingdon, Cambridge, and South Lincolnshire, Sherwood Forest and the New Forest, and the light pastures of the North and South Downs, the South and Midland and Eastern agricultural districts, the wild moorlands of the North and West, and the intermediate districts of coal and iron. The oval-shaped manufacturing heart of England lies below me. At night the clouds flicker in the lurid glare. I hear the sob and gasp of pumps, and the solid beat of steam and tilt-hammers. I see streams of pale lilac and saffron-tinted fire. I see the swarthy Vulcan-reeking towns, the belching chimneys, the slums, the liquor shops, chapels, dancing saloons, running grounds, the blameless remote villa residences. I see the huge warehouses of Manchester, the many-storied mills, the machinery, the great bale-laden drays, the magnificent horses. I walk through the Liverpool Exchange. The brokers stand in knots. The greetings, the frock coats, the rosebuds, the handling and comparing of cotton samples. Leeds lies below me. I hear the great bell. I see the rush along Boar Lane and Briggate. I enter the hot machine shops, smelling of oil and wool dust. I see Sheffield among her hills, and the white dashing of her many water wheels, and the sulphurous black cloud going up to heaven in her midst. Newcastle I recognize, and her lofty bridge, and I look out over the river gates of the Mersey. 39. I see a great land poised as in a dream, waiting for the word by which it may live again. I see the stretched sleeping figure waiting for the kiss and the reawakening. I hear the bells pealing and the crash of hammers, and see beautiful parks spread as in a toy show. I see a great land waiting for its own people to come and take possession of it. 40. The clouds fly overhead still, and the waves curdle in the blue beneath. The smell of the new-mown grass comes, and the tall white cliffs stand up. All depends upon a word spoken. Do you think perhaps that there is no answer? Do you think that the high lighthouses looking out over the water, the sea itself careering beyond them, that the ploughed lands and the rocks that are hewn into great cities are indifferent to who own, to who trespass upon them, that they are dumb, dead, and of no account? Do you think that they have nothing to say to all this, that they will not deliver themselves upon whom they choose, that they have not it in their power to bless and to curse? Ah, that they cannot repay love 100-fold. Do you not know that the streets, houses, public buildings of the city where you live have tongues, arms, eyes, that they are on the watch, that the trees and streams around you are alive with answers, and that the common clay knows the tread of its true owner? Do you think that England or any land will rise into life, will display her surpassing beauty, will pour out her love to the touch of false owners, to people who finger banknotes, who make traffic buying and selling her, who own by force of title deeds, laws, police, who yet deny her, turning their backs upon her winds and her waves, and ashamed to touch her soil with their hands? Do you think that she will arise to the call of these? Oh, do you not know how she yearns for the mastery of her true owners? How she leans herself backward, displaying her charms, inviting, breathing courage even into faint souls to know their manhood, to come upon her boldly, to let none stand between. Oh, know well that it shall be, that the land they dwell on, that the earth, for whatsoever people is worthy, shall become impossible to be separated from them, even in thought. Of those who are truly the people, they are jealous of their land. The woods and the fields and the open sea are covered with their love, inseparable from life. Every hedgerow, every old lum and coppice, the nature of the soils in every field and part of a field, the soughs, the bedrock, pastures, ploughlands and fallows, the quarries and places of the best stone for road mending, building, walling, roofing, draining, the best stuff for mending footpaths, the best water for miles round, and the taste and quality of the various wells and springs, the clays for puddling and for brick burning, the basseting out and the dips of the beds, the cattle and livestock up and down their various breeds, treatments and condition, the moors, forests, streams, rivers, sea-coasts, familiar by sunlight, moonlight, starlight, and on dark nights, every nook and corner of them, the old trees and their histories, the waterside trees and where pheasants frequently roost, and the places for netting rabbits and hares, or for spearing trout by lantern light, or where the crabapple and the clusterberry and the mountain flax and agrimony grow, the haunts of the wild duck and snipe, the decoy of the corncrake, the nests of the stormcock and the water hen and the pewit, the legends told of old hollows and caves and crags, the bold and beautiful headlands, the taste of the air upon them, the old streets of the towns and their histories, and the histories of the houses in them, and of those who lived in the houses, the old villages and their traditions, customs, specialties, notorious characters, feasts and frolics, the knowledge of the arts of sea and river fishing, oyster and scallop dredging, the trawl, the seine, and the drift net, farming, fruit growing, timber growing, pilling and dressing, canal making, sea walling, shipbuilding, irrigation, the great crafts in stone, wood, iron, of the masons, the smiths, the joiners, the toolmakers' work, of the clean use of tools, of all faithful and perfect work, and the joy and mastery that comes of it. Everything that the land has calls an answer in the breasts of the people, and quickly grows love for the use of those that live on it. Without this love, no people can exist. This is the creation, nourishment, and defense of nations. It is this that shall save England, as it has saved Ireland, which ultimately of the very earth shall become the nurse of humanity. Between a great people and the earth springs a passionate attachment, lifelong, and the earth loves indeed her children, broad-breasted, broad-browed, and talks with them night and day, storm and sunshine, summer and winter alike. Here indeed is the key to the whole secret of education. Owners and occupiers then fall into their places. The trees wave proud and free upon the headlands. The little brooks run with a wonderful new music under the brambles and the grass. Determined is the word henceforth, to worship nothing, no ownership which is unreal, no title deeds, money smells, respectabilities, authorities, to be arrogant, unpersuadable, faithful, free, not unworthy of the trees waving upon the high tops and of the earth rolling through the starlit night. Government and laws and police then fall into their places. The earth gives her own laws. Democracy just begins to open her eyes and peep, and the rabble of unfaithful bishops, priests, generals, landlords, capitalists, lawyers, kings, queens, patronizers, and polite idlers goes scuttling down into general oblivion. Faithfulness emerges, self-reliance, self-help, passionate comradeship. Freedom emerges, the love of the land, the broad waters, the air, the undulating fields, the flow of cities and the people therein, their faces and the looks of them no less than the rush of the tides, and the slow hardy growth of the oak, and the tender herbage of spring and stiff clay and storms and transparent air. All depends upon a word, spoken or unspoken. The clouds fly overhead still, and the smell of the new-mown grass is wafted by. It comes and recedes again. I hear the awful syllable change, and see all things qualities, impersonations, gliding from the embraces of their own names. But I hear beyond. I hear beyond the sound of the hone and strickle, and look in the eyes of the mower under the shade of his broad straw hat. It comes and recedes again and comes nearer. The little waves lip up against the great black ship as she glides down river. O sailor sitting on a plank over the side, beware. The ship itself, the rigging, the tidal river, the docks, the wharves, and the long busy streets and country beyond, the shows of life and death. Who makes and who unmakes them? I touch you lightly. I am the spray. I touch you that you remember and forget not who you are. End of section 6. Section 7 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 41. I look upon him who makes all things. I sit at his feet in silence as he lights his pipe, and feel the careless resting of his fingers upon my neck. I see the fire leaping in the grate. I see the nodding of grasses and blackberry sprays in the hedges. I hear the long surge and hush of the wind. I hear his voice speaking to me. O rivers and hills of Albion, O clouds that sail from the Atlantic to the North Sea, and wrinkled old abbeys, and modern towers and streets of heavily laden drays. Behind your masks I am aware of an imperceptible change. Surely it must be the appearance of a face. 42. The word travels on. I have been on a tramp, and my boots are dusty and hobnailed, and my clothes are torn. Do not ask me into your house. God knows I might spoon my food with a knife. Give me a penny on the doorstep and let me pass on. I have sat with you long and loved you well, unknown to you, but now I go otherwhere. 43. The word travels on. Out of the mists of time, out of innumerable births, of endless journeys, transfigurements, lives, deaths, sorrows, emerging my voice sounds to myself, to you nearer than all thought, tentatively trying the first notes, wondering at its beauty, of the song, strange word, of joy. To spread abroad over the earth, to be realized in time, freedom to be realized in time, for which the whole of history has been a struggle and a preparation, the dream of the soul's slow disentanglement. Oh, blessed is he that has passed away, blessed alive or dead, whom the bitter taunts of existence reach not, nor betrayals protruded from dear faces, no weariness, nor cold, nor pain, dwelling in heaven and looking forth in peace upon the world. Blessed, thrice blessed by day, by night, blessed who sleeps with him, blessed who eats, walks, talks, blessed who labors in the field beside him, blessed whoever, though he be dead, shall know him to be eternally near. I am the poet of hitherto unuttered joy. A little bird told me the secret in the night, and henceforth I go about seeking to whom to whisper it. I see the heavens laughing. I discern the half-hidden faces of the gods wherever I go. I see the transparent, opaque veil in which they hide themselves. Yet I dare not say what I see, lest I should be locked up. Children go with me, and rude people are my companions. I trust them and they me. Day and night we are together and are content. To them what I would say is near, yet it is nothing that can be named, or in the giving or taking of any one thing, but rather in all things. Laughter, laughter, O endless journey, O soul exhaled through suffering, arising free, little bird petrel through the stormy seas, diving, darting, thy boundless home, O clouds and sunshine shattering, elf in thine own dark eyes gazing, O beckoner of companions, hastening onward, winged spirit divine, girt round with laughter, laughter, laughter. 44. I am come to be the interpreter of yourself to yourself. Do I not stand behind the sun and moon? Do I not wait behind the air that you breathe for this? Born beyond Maya, I now descend into materials. The dandelion by the path, and the pink buds of the sycamore, and the face of the sweep who comes to sweep your chimney, shall henceforth have a new meaning to you. How do you know that I am not the chimney sweep? The nettles growing against the gate post, and the dry log on the grass where you stop and sit, the faithful tool that is in your hand, and the sweat on your forehead, the sound of the dear old village band across the fields. These shall be for memorials between us, and I in them will surely draw towards you. And to you, when I am dead, they shall deliver the words which still I had not sense and courage to speak. Hear them. Where I was not faithful, these shall be faithful to you. Where I was vain and silly, these shall look you clear of all vanity and silliness. Where I was afraid to utter my thoughts, dumb things shall utter for you words impossible to be misunderstood. The sun shall shine, the clouds draw across the sky, the fire leap in the grate, the kettle boil, to purposes which you cannot fathom. The simplest shall look you in the face to meanings ever profounder and profounder than all thought. Behind them, behind the woven veil, accepting, not rejecting, my own vanities, cowardices, giving them also their due place, I too wait in silence till the full-armed shall come to give me birth again. 45. In silence I wait and accept all. The glare of misapprehension I accept. I sit at the fashionable dinner table and accept what is brought to me. I am a painter on the house side. The sight of the distant landscape pleases me, and the scraps of conversation caught from the street below. My back aches singling turnips through the long hot day. My fingers freeze getting potatoes. I help the farmer drive his scared cattle home at midnight by the fitful flicker of lightning. I go mowing at early morning while the twilight creeps in the northeast. I sleep in the hot hours and mow again on into the night. I am a seen, unseen atom, traveling with others through space, or remaining centuries in one place. Again I resume a body and disclose myself. I am one of the people who spend their lives sitting on their haunches in drawing rooms and studies. I grow gradually feebler and fretfuler. I am a boy once more in tall hat and gloves, walking wearily among crowds of well-dressed, hopelessly well-dressed people, up and down a certain promenade. I enter the young prostitute's chamber, where he is arranging the photographs of fashionable beauties and favorite companions, and stay with him. We are at ease and understand each other. I dance at the village feast in the upper room of a public. My partner shows me the steps and figures. The elderly harper, so noble and dignified, accompanies his son's fiddle, or goes round to collect the pence, but all the while his thoughts are with his only daughter in Australia. The wheel turns, but whatever it brings uppermost is well. 46. I lie abed in illness, and experience strange extensions of spirit. I am close to those afar off, and the present and near at hand are discounted. I spent nights of pain and loneliness. I dream of the beautiful life. I go down to the sea with fisher folk and spend chill nights on the great deep under the stars. The sun rises on faces round me of freedom and experience. I see everywhere the old simple occupations, the making and mending of nets, the growing of flax and hemp, the tending of gardens, cattle, the old sweet excuses for existence, their meaning now partly understood. The faith that grows in the open air and out of all honest work till it surrounds and redeems the soul. The blacksmith blows up his fire. He listens for the sound of the great heat. He taps the glowing iron in advance of the blows of the striker, and turns it deftly with the tongs. The butter of roses bends among the low bushes. With a quick motion he flirts out the wood and binds the bud on the wild stalk. The wire weaver stands at his loom, working the treadles with his foot and throwing the shuttle with alternate hand. The old coach body maker stands at his bench, gray-haired, worn, thoughtful. The young apprentice comes down whistling from the trimming shop to ask him a question. The sunlight streams in broad shafts through the chinks of the blinds into the carpenter's shop. With grizzled beard and hair and something of a stoop in his shoulders, the governor stands penciling out a fresh job. A tall young fellow sits astride of a door-stile cutting a mortise, and a dab of light on the floor sends a reflection up in his arch-humored face. The bathers in the late twilight, almost dark, advance naked under the trees by the waterside, 5 or 6 together, superb, unashamed, scarcely touching the ground. The budding pens of love scorch all over me. My skin is too tight. I am ready to burst through it. A flaming girdle is round my middle. Eyes, hair, lips, hands, waist, thighs. Oh, naked, mad tremors in the dark, feeding, pasturing flames. O soul spreading, spreading, impalpable sunlight behind the sunlight. The tall, thin, gray-bearded man I meet daily in the street, with lined brow, silent, full of experience. The stout matron in the greengrocer's shop, loquacious, clear-eyed, with clear, indubitable voice. The thick-thighed, hot, coarse-fleshed young bricklayer with the strap around his waist. The young printer, but he has a wife and family at home, with large, dreamy, projecting eyes, going absent miles away over his work, thinking of Swedenborg and the dance of atoms and angels. The young woman at the refreshment bar, her thick light-colored hair, her well-formed features, and the bored look in her eyes as she returns the shaft of the carefully dressed young man across the counter. The military-looking official at the door of the hotel, the despondency of drink which he conceals beneath his loud-voiced, smart exterior. The ragged boy with rare intense eyes not to be misunderstood. In the midst of much dirt and ignorance, the soul, through suffering, enfranchised, exhaled, here too shining like the sunlight, redeeming, justifying all it lights on. The slut of a girl who has become a mother, the ready doubt among her neighbors who was the father, the stupid, loving way in which she crams the child to her breast, sitting on a stone by the fireside, utterly oblivious of opinion. The good-natured, fair-haired Titan at work in the fields, the little woman with large, dark eyes, who is so clever and managing among the poor and with their children, the thin, close-lipped, frizz-haired commercial traveller, unwearied, walking long distances to save railway or coach fare, well posted in all local information for 50 miles round. His wife so comfortable and forethoughtful at home, so evil-tongued abroad, and the bevy of red-haired, red-cheeked girls, well drilled in scrubbing and cooking, and not without a veneer of accomplishments. The railway lamp foreman, tall, strong, fleet of foot, with gentle voice, lover of the fields and flowers, going long walks Sundays or late evenings by moonlight, sending the balance of his earnings to support his aged father and mother. The bright sunny girl child with long beautiful hair, envied of the other children, and poignant blossoming lips and eyes. The girl in the tobacconist's shop, her drooping lashes, her taper fingers, and provocative inimitable composure, and all the time her mother is incurably dying. The hunchbacked cobbler, young, thwarted, thinking incessantly of Jesus, praying night and day for the gift of preaching. The drunken father reeling home in the rain across country — he has more than a mile to go — singing, cursing, tumbling hands and knees in the mire, his son following unbeknown at a little distance. He had been watching a long time for his father outside the beer shop. The late moon rising on the strange scene, the hiccuped oaths of the old man through the silence of the night. End of section 7. Section 8 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 47. Lo, I touch you. Softly yearning, I touch you and pass on, dreaming the dream of the soul's slow disentanglement. Sharp-cut, thin-lipped, sad, scholastic, plain-featured, unembarrassed, affectionate, and you, beautiful, careless boy, and you, strange, eternal, anxious mother face. How shall I say what I have to say? How shall I speak the word which sums up all words that are spoken? How shall I speak that for which the moon and the stars and running waters and the universe itself subsist to speak it, which if it could be uttered in a word, there were no need of all these things? O death, take me away. Take me away, kindly death. Lead me forth, lead me through the entire universe. Let me pass, hold me back I say no longer, for I am tired, I am sick of talking, and I forebode other ways. For I would be the dust, and I would be the silver rays of the moon and the stars, and the washing sound of the midnight sea, and nourishing sweet air and running water for the lips of them that I choose. To pass, to put on the invisible cap, to run round about the world unseen. And I will be the plain ungarnished facts of life, with continual nearnesses. The train arriving at the station shall not be nearer or more solid, nor the lifting and transporting of boxes and goods, nor the grasp of the handles to them that open and shut the doors. I will be the ground underfoot and the common clay. The ploughman shall turn me up with his ploughshare among the roots of the twitch in the sweet-smelling furrow. The potter shall mould me, running his finger along my whirling edge. We will be faithful to one another, he and I. The bricklayer shall lay me, he shall tap me into place with the handle of his trowel, and to him I will utter the word which with my lips I have not spoken. 48. I arise and pass. I am a spirit passing by, a light air on the hills, saying unto you, in death there is peace. out of all mortal suffering, out of the bruised and broken heart, out of tears, tears falling seen, falling inward and unseen, out of the withering flame of desire, and out of all illusion. My spirit exhaled floats free, my brother and sister, for you, over the world eternally. Joy, oh joy! For you too beyond this visible, through the gates of mortal passion and suffering, for the exhaled spirit. For you too beyond this broken dream, this bitter waking in tears. Something, how can I tell it, which I have seen, which I might perhaps give you, and yet which I cannot give you, but in me waits also for you. Oh, how long! Something that I have promised. I give you the token. Faithfully, when you recognize and return it, shall you have that you desire. I am the light air on the hills, deny me not. My desire which was not satisfied is satisfied, and yet can never be satisfied. I pass and pass and pass. From the hills I creep down into the great city, fresh and pervading through all the streets I pass. Him I touch, and her I touch, and you I touch. I can never be satisfied. I who desired one give myself to all. I who would be the companion of one become the companion of all companions. The lowest and who knows me not, him I know best and love best. The child of the suffering heart I take, my arms pass under his shoulders and under the hollow of his thighs. His arm lies around my neck, my lips yearn close to his, on my breast at length he slumbers peacefully and long. The blind and aged woman descends the steps leading to the basement of the tall London house. The east wind blows bitter with dust along the street. She feels along the wall and for the door and timidly knocks. I cannot see who opens the door, but it is slammed immediately in her face. I take her by the hand and speak words to her, and her sightless eyes are as though they saw once more. Once I walked the world of rocks and grass, of space and time, of ambition and action, and could imagine no other, for I was in that one. Now I roam through other fields, and have the freedom of worlds innumerable, and am familiar where before was darkness and silence. 49. I arise and pass. In her tall windowed sitting room, alone, the setting sun casts long shafts of light across the path, and beneath the trees where knee-deep in grass a milk-white calf is browsing. In her tall windowed sitting room, with its antique pier-glasses and profuse handsome ornaments, alone the old dowager sits. Her silver grey hair lies smooth under a lace cap. Lace and silk are her dress. Her thin fingers are well stocked with rings. Lonely is the great house. Her old life and the voices of children have long passed away. She goes to the window to pass the time, and through the glass looks out upon the still landscape. After a while she turns and rings a bell. A tall young footman appears. Her voice is quiet and gentle as she gives her order, and flexible still with intelligence. Very taking with their old-fashioned refinement are her manners. But in a moment what she requires is there, and she is alone again. Everything is done for her. Into her chair once more she resigns herself, to knit an antimacassar. Without, how peaceful the scene, the crisp sound of browsing, the liquid blue-violet eyes of the white calf, her budding horns, her sweet breath, her muscular tongue encircling the tufts of grass, the impatient sideway thrust of her head with which she tears them. the fearlessness with which she gives her head to be caressed and hugged by the little girl just come down from the farm. The sun withdraws his rays, the many shadows are merged in one, the sweet odor of the white campion comes floating, and of the wild roses in neighboring hedgerows, and of the distant bean fields. Twilight comes, and dusk comes, and the height of the sky lifts and lifts. The last of the long daylight fades. Over the fields and by the hedgerows and along the sprawling suburban streets of London, the last of the long daylight fades. Over the roof of the high opera house, late grey and ghostly in contrast with the myriad twinkling lamps below, by those within unthought of, it fades, where, amid a blaze of light and colour, elate to her full height drawn, tier upon tier of faces, thousands of eyes confronting, and saturated with the excitement of the moment, every vein in her beautiful body bounding, the prima donna lifts clear and unfaltering in the finale her splendid voice, and retires amid a storm of flowers. The sower goes out to sow alone in the morning, the early October morning so beautiful and calm. The flanks of the clods are creeping with thin vapour, and the little copse alongside the field is full of white trailing veils of it, while now like a flood the rising yellow sunlight pours in, among the brambles and under the square oak boughs, and splashes through in great streaks of light over the ploughed land. Beautiful is the morning. Alone over the field, to and fro, with ample alternate hand sweep he goes. At every step, right and left, the grain broadcast flies in a glittering shower, with the sun and the earth for companions, with browned arms and face and dazzle-lidded eyes, thick-booted, untiring, all day the sower goes sowing, what in due time shall become daily bread in the mouths of thousands. The caravan has halted. It is the hour of prayer. The tents are already pitched. On his carpet the old sheik kneels upright, his arms and eyes uplifted. Above, the living blue breathless miracle bends, the sky. The others are around him with their faces buried in the sand. The camels are tethered a few paces off. His voice ascends. By the doors of the tents, from the scanty fires just lighted, 3 columns of smoke, perfectly straight, also ascend. That is all. The smoke creeps upward and is lost continually in the blue. His voice who prays creeps upward and is lost. Around spreads silent with loose stones and a few weeds, the desert. Above, the sky. The sky. 50. I arise and pass. After 80 years, having been once like the rest a little vacant-eyed child in his mother's arms, having thence lived and toiled and enjoyed much hither and thither over the earth, now being very weary, and day after day and week after week growing more and more weary, all old interests refusing, for death longing, the old lawyer lies down to sleep. It is but for an hour or two. Death comes not yet. The leaves still tremble in the evening wind. The clouds in solemn transformation float on. Voices of children call in the garden below. The last few miles, the old familiar country, the well-known roads and garden lands, yet no glance thereon. The strange immortal instinct pressing, the veiled figure always in front, beckoning. Now at this time the creatures of the forest to their lairs retiring await the approach of night. The great mountains stand in awe amid the hush of their own waters. Twilight fades, and the stars once more appear. Deep under dead leaves in the wood or buried in the earth, the baby fly, white and unformed, the two dark specks which will be its eyes just appearing, in its oak-spangled cradle sleeps, with their mother plaited in a ball of dry grass, warm and soft. The young field mice lie quiet, or chirrup nosing for their food. The pools of water are full of creatures that cannot rest. To the starlit surface rising they spread wings and fly forth into the fields of air. In heaven, whirled by resistless tradition and necessity descending from God knows when, Jupiter the great planet swims and swathes itself wondrous in clouds, prophetic. Heaven bends above, the earth opens, disclosing innumerable births beneath. He lies weary, slumbering for a moment. The pen, the desk, the half-finished letter are there. The gas makes a slight singing noise overhead. Solid walls and stones grow transparent and penetrable. The earth and all that is in it fade and recede to make way for the traveler. 51. I arise and pass. An unfinished house standing at the edge of a field is burning, and the roof has caught first. One vast sheet of flame ascends spiral in the night and casts its glare upon thousands of faces in the street and fields below. Lo, the wonderful colors of the flame, the pitchy night above, the dazzling white and red mixed with the greens and blue-greens of the burning metals, and the great twisted column of tawny smoke with red sparkles flying on the wind. Lo, the strange light cast upon the wall of full-foliaged elms, and far more wonderful than all, at their feet, the crowd of living faces, the mad, pushing, sweating crowd, the flushed, eager faces, dominated all, controlled and riveted by that flaming sign. Holy, holy, holy! Night and flame, entering in, entering, O arched wonder of many eyes, through the visible into the invisible. Holy, holy, holy! Night and flame entering in, and one with you, treading softly through the myriad marvelous chambers. To dwell for months, years, to transfuse, enlarge, to touch with wonder, ardor, exultation, to be remembered afterwards years and years perhaps upon his bed by that child there, the jets of flame through the roof, the strange wreathing smoke, the solemn dark of the sky, the bravery of the firemen, the thrill of the falling timbers, to mix with the yearnings of the growing lonely boy, to be a strange symbol burning in his heart, to fire the slumbering train in some compressed girl soul of adventurous resolve, to mingle with the fears of motherhood, at last to merge and become indistinguishable, in each one of these to merge, night and flame, leaving out not one. Holy, holy, holy! And lo, the crowd still standing, and now out of all two alone. By the curbstone, in the forefront of the crowd, a man, a navvy, with his hands clasped in front of him on the breast of his little son. The boy, timid, standing between his father's feet, pressing back against his legs, with his own little hands, the great hands, clasping. The two, equal childlike, with parallel upward eyes by the flame riveted, their rapt unconscious demeanor, the strong likeness between them, and the meanings apart which the wonderful roaring gesticulating flame in the night signifies secretly to each. End of section 8. Section 9 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 52. I arise and pass, with struggles and strange exhausting birth leapings, with long intervals of sleep, when it's all over, with long, long, sweet sleep, with the unwashed wet of birth, of love still upon me, with the clinging of the love of men and women, with the sweat of night-long companions, with the bruised sweetness of love, with sleep, sleep with the wine of life and death, with kisses given and received, with the reaching of arms round neck and shoulder and the answer of quiet eyes, with nakedness unashamed, with divine comradeship and laughter, with the enclosing shadow of death, far lost in daring outposts on the verge of the unknown, with soldiership and armor, unremitted, exultant, with childhood and the least trifle content, with eternal nowness, with perfected carelessness, with night, day, rain, sun, winter, summer, morning, evening, solitude, pain, pleasure, and the looking forth of innumerable faces, with chastity and ascendancy, with invulnerability and superhuman power, with unchastity and effusion, with live clinging threads of love reaching down to the remotest time, with the endless journey begun, with trades by sea and land, simple food, coarse clothing, common features, with the breath of the common air and the freemasonry of the old crafts all over the world, shaggy coat shakings, revolts, rejection of accepted things, travels, disappearances, reappearances, swoonings away, oblivions, arising again on earth, irresistible to supreme mastery, to savagery and the wild woods with unfettered step, to rocks and hanging branches, to the dens of the animals, to wind and sun blowing shining through, and I through them, to evade and arise. With joy over the world, democracy born again into heaven, over the mountain peaks and the seas in the unfathomable air, screaming with shouts of joy, whirling the nations with her breath into heaven, arising and passing. I arise and pass, dreaming the dream of the soul's slow disentanglement. 53. Where you are, where the firelight flickers about your room, and the wind moans in the window, and the railway whistle over suburban roofs sounds hollow through the night, where you sit alone and your thoughts spread, making a great space about you, where you go forth at early morning with your bass of trusty tools, and your shadow shoots long before you down the frosty sparkling road, where you return at evening, weary and out of humor with your life. I dream the dream. Where you open your eyes upon the world, and the beauty of it is upon you like the touch of beloved fingers, where the still flame burns in your soul, hidden away from the lightest breath of curious man, where the fire of consecration burns. Yet the world closes in at last, and the lamp grows dim, and you lie like one half dead of the bitter wounds of the faces of men and the taunts of existence. I dream the dream. I dream the dream of the soul's slow disentanglement. Where you bend ankle deep in mud all day in the rice plantations for a few halfpence, and the sun sails on, slow, slow over the steamy land. Where you walk following the old employ, shepherding sheep in the sweet crisp air of the highlands. Where you stand pale and worn-eyed in the gloomy north, amid the hot smell of machinery and the wicked scream of wheels. Where you stand adjusting the threads, making the same answering movement of the hand for the millionth time. Where you lie wedged in under a coal seam, working by the light of a tallow dip stuck in clay, or grind scythes all day, bending over, or race your wheel with the racing steel. Where you sit high up on the fragrant mountains of Ceylon, with a great flood of moonlight at your feet, leaning your soul out from the veranda to the slow lifting and floating of palm fronds in the exquisite breeze, and memories come trooping back upon you like the clouds of small yellow butterflies that along your coasts, between the sand and the sea, beat annually up against the wind. Where you recline by your campfire in the African wild, watching the moonlight dances of the natives, the fantastic leaps of the dancer, the rhythmical hand-clapping of the spectators. Where you drop down the river in the sun, past the dreaded mud-banks and wildernesses of mangroves, I dream the dream. 54. Where you sit in your armchair by the hearth, sleeping long and long, where you wake to look back upon your life, lying hushed below you, like one who looks back from the summit of a mountain, and the children that come to you in the morning have gone from you at evening dusk, and the lesson of unfulfilled longing is yours, and of the inflow of immortality. Where they go out over the earth, where the children of the universal mother go, and the wind carries them over the sea, blowing them into all lands, where they flow through the straits and narrows and over the great oceans of the earth, dwelling for nights together among the white leaping crests under the stars. Where strange faces meet under other slanting suns amid new scenes and colors. Where light encounters dark, and in their meeting glance lie now social ideals and civilizations slumbering. Where the mother of them all sits dreaming. Where the young poet peers in by moonlight through the bars of the tomb of Dante and turns away with a silent prayer. Where the artist with easel and palette sits swathed in coats upon a hillside watching the untroubled dawn. Where the old Hindu, feeling the approach of death, leaves his family and retires to a hut in the jungle, there to spend his last days in prayer and solitude. Where royalty dwells lonely in spacious chambers, or moves along corridors past scarlet-coated footmen. Where young and old at eventide, in the dreamy flicker of firelight, sit silent, or go away wandering in thought after the brother, the son and lover of their dreams, following quickly softly with each, and kissing the sacred footsteps through the dark. Where the young mother prays for hours bending over the face of her sleeping child. Where the young man dreams all night of the face of his new-found friend and the kisses of his lips. Where the river glides down by night past the great city broadening to the sea, I dream the dream. The wind blows up fresh and cold where the waves are slapping against the jetty, red and green lights skim rapidly over the water. The cold light of the half-moon stands overhead, breaking its way through combed fleece clouds. The horizon stretches misty white like the edge of an ice-bound sea. The moon pushes her way for a moment through the clouds, to look down upon the stilled scene of human toil and suffering. The wind blows up keen against those who still linger on the jetty. Keenly it blows away over the waste sea, and wraps itself round 1,000 solitary watchers of the deep. On the wind I ride, and dream the dream of the soul's slow disentanglement. 55. I have passed away and entered the gate of heaven. I am absolved from all torment. all is well with me. A tiny infant am I once more, leaning out from my mother's arms as one leans from a balcony. But the world hangs flat before me like a painted curtain. The sun and the moon and men's faces are all alike. This is my dream. The sound of music comes calling to me, calling, calling. Listening, I lean forward with open mouth and far distant gaze, and am profoundly still. Let who looks upon me see with his own eyes my dark soul's myriad reawakening. I am a wild cat crouching at night in the angle of a bough. I am Arjun reasoning on the battlefield with Krishna, learning the lessons of divine knowledge. I am a teacher scanning the faces of those who sit opposite to me. All is well. I labor all day in the drizzle with pick and shovel. The smell of fire I strike from the rock pleases me. I return home tired and wet in the early dusk to my tea. I am one of a rustic party of actors. In the old farm parlor we rehearse our parts with shouts of laughter. I go into the cowshed last thing at night with my lantern to see that all is well. I am a shepherd on the breezy hills. The wholesome aromatic odors of the grass transfuse me. My sheep graze on and on through the noonday. I lie in the sun and think and speak of little beside ewes and tups. I stand in the chamber of death and gaze upon the swathed larval form. The solid world recedes around it. Through the just open window come the cries of hawkers and the creak of cart wheels. I laugh and chat with the other girls and women in the edge tool warehouse. I run home in the evening to my old mother and to prepare the dinners for next day. The din of the riveting shop goes on round me. I hate the bully red-faced master coming on his rounds with his insulting voice, and answer him not. Murderous thoughts haunt my mind. I plot with others to murder the captain on board ship. I am satisfied with the deed and experience no remorse. It is off the coast of China. I go ashore afterwards and spend the night at a sing-song shop. All is well, the least action as well as the greatest. The beautiful and the deformed are alike beautiful. I am happy now and not tomorrow, and am absolved from motives. On the northernmost point of Australia, decent in my single cowrie shell, I stand. The white man comes ashore in his boat from the great ship and gives me some old hoop iron, and I give him a few wooden lances in return. I am a long-eyed Japanee. In the shadow of the sacred thicket I lie, where the great seated image of Buddha, hollow within for a shrine, breaks above me against the blue sky. The sharp shadows lie under his sleepy lids and soft mouth, smiling inwardly. I see on his forehead the sacred spot, and from between his feet the emblematic lotus springing. All is well. In the shadow of the thicket I lie spreading my fevered limbs to the cool breeze, bruising their unslaked passion against the stony earth. In the cool shadow I lie and gaze at his face I know so well, and through the immortal calm of it the spirit of the Holy One steals upon me. The fever of life departs. I stand near the door of my cottage, busy with the week's washing, thinking of my husband. In the doorway to and fro my baby swings in the little seat he has made. Petulant soft wafts of spring air steal in this warm February morning. I am very happy. I am very happy. By the door of my own little house at last I stand entranced. I look out upon the world and know not which way to go. O world, you have been very gentle to me. Strangely as to the dead your beauty comes to me now. Little house where I have lived so long, I thank you too. I know well that you are different from what you appear. Disembodied I cry over the earth. I shake the sleepers in their tombs with unutterable joy. Oh, arise! O air and elements, break forth into singing! Great sea washing the shores of earth! O earth of countless tombs, the hour of your disclosure is at hand, the bounds of mortality at length are past. I arise and pass once more. I travel forth into all lands. Nothing detains me any longer. By the ever beautiful coastline of human life, in all climates and countries, wandering on a stranger unwearied, I meet the old faces. I come never away from home. I lift the latch of the cottage door, and the place I love is laid for me for supper. I depart, yet never to depart again. Laws and limitations fade. Time and distance are no more. No bars can hold me, no chamber shut me in. On those that bear me to the grave I descend in peace. The arched doors of the eyebrows of innumerable multitudes open around me. New heavens I see, and the earth made new because of them. I will stop here then. I will not leave the earth after all. I am content and need go no further. And was this, O love, the cause of your so long aching? That you might have the adit, that you might enter in at last and be at rest? End of section 9. Section 10 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 56. Slowly, on you too the meanings. The light sparkles on water, tufts of weed in winter, the least things, dandelion and groundsel. Have you seen the wild bee's nest in the field, the cells, the grubs, the transparent white baby bees turning brown, hairy, the young bees beginning to fly, raking the moss down over the disturbed cells, the parasites? Have you seen the face of your brother or sister? Have you seen the little robin hopping and peering under the bushes? Have you seen the sun rise or set? I do not know. I do not think that I have. When your unquiet brain has ceased to spin its cobwebs over the calm and miraculous beauty of the world, when the air and the sunlight shall have penetrated your body through and through, and the earth and sea have become part of it, when at last, like a sheath long concealing the swelling green shoot, the love of learning and the regard for elaborate art, wit, manners, dress, or anything rare or costly whatever, shall drop clean off from you. When your body, for to this it must inevitably return, is become shining and transparent before you in every part, however deformed, then, O Blessed One, these things also, transparent possibly, shall surrender themselves. The least thing shall speak to you words of deliverance. The stones are anywhere and everywhere. The temple roof is the sky. The materials are the kettle boiling on the fire, the bread in the oven, the washing dolly, the axe, the grave lock. The product is God. And the little kitchen where you live, the shelves, the pewter, the nightly lamp, the fingers and faces of your children, a finished and beautiful transparency of your own body. 57. I saw the cow give birth to her firstborn calf. I saw the beautiful helpless creature laid under her nose. I saw the calm woman who sprinkled the young thing with meal and tended the exhausted mother. I see the many women who manage cattle well, and gardens, and understand the breeding of sheep. I see the noble and natural women of all the earth. I see their well-formed feet and fearless ample stride, their supple strong frames, and attitudes well braced and beautiful. On those that are with them long love and wisdom descend. Everything that is near them seems to be in its place. They do not pass by little things, nor are afraid of big things, but they love the open air and the sight of the sky in the early morning. Blessed of such women are the children, and blessed are they in childbirth. The open air and the sun and the moon and the running streams they love all the more passionately for the sake of that which lies sleeping within them. 58. Recurved and close lie the little feet and hands, close as in the attitude of sleep folds the head, and the little lips are hardly parted. The living mother flesh folds round in darkness. The mother's life is an unspoken prayer, her body a temple of the Holy One. I am amazed and troubled, my child, she whispers, at the thought of you. I hardly dare to speak of it, you are so sacred. When I feel you leap, I do not know myself any more. I am filled with wonder and joy. Ah, if any injury should happen to you! I will keep my body pure, very pure. The sweet air will I breathe and pure water drink. I will stay out in the open hours together, that my flesh may become pure and fragrant for your sake. Holy thoughts will I think. I will brood in the thought of mother love. I will fill myself with beauty. Trees and running brooks shall be my companions. And I will pray that I may become transparent, that the sun may shine and the moon, my beloved, upon you, even before you are born. 59. Out of night and nothingness a body appears. The threads of 1,000 past ages run together in it. Out of its loins and the look of its eyes 1,000 ages part their way into the future. Eyes out of which I see, ears through which I hear, formed in my mother's womb in silence. Mother of mine, walking the earth no more, to me closer than ever, out of all tears suffusing light over the world, equal with God, for whose sake night and day evermore are sacred. Body by which I ascend and know myself, mysteries of life and death slowly parting and transforming around me. O glad, not for 1 year or 2, but for how many thousands, I out of deep and infinite peace salute you. The doctor does not give health, but the winds of heaven. Happiness does not proceed by chance, nor is got by supplication, but is inevitable wherever the Master is. Doubts part aside. I hear grown and bearded men shouting in the woods for joy, shouting, singing with the birds. I hear the immense chorus over all the world of the return of joy. Come, my friend, in the still autumn morning, while the sun is yet low upon the hills, among the dead leaves, come walk with me. Those and the like of those that have been my companions are with you also, and shall be to all time. I give you but a hint and a word of commendation. I open a door outwards. The gentle and the stormy winds, the clouds sailing in heaven, the plough stilts, the boat tiller, sitting at dinner with the winter sun looking in at the open door, natural men and women common as unquarried rock around you, love granted or not granted, the companionship of the dead, the savage eternal peaks, the solitary signals, Walt Whitman, Jesus of Nazareth, your own self distantly deriding you, these are always with you. Have you doubted? It is well, but now you shall forget your doubts. Have you suffered? It is good to suffer, but soon you shall suffer no longer. Have you looked at the sky and the earth and the long busy streets, and thought them dead of all poetry and beauty? It is you have been ill, nigh to death, but be at peace, life shall surely return to you. I have seen your struggles, your long wakeful nights. I have sat by you. I have heard the voice which calls you. Come with me. Here is rest, here is peace I give you. A little while by the edge of this wood sitting, I with you, then to depart, never yet to depart again. Words unspoken, yet wafted over all lands, through all times eternal. No more mine than yours, I give them again to the wide embracing air. Haply a little breath for you to breathe, to enter, scarcely perceived, into your body, a little time to dwell, transforming within you. Haply mementos, indications, broken halves of ancient changeless symbols, eternal possessions, treasures incorruptible, of love which changes not, to be duly presented again, the broken halves to be joined. I, a child sitting at your feet, content, the odor of dead leaves all around, or walking with you, your comrade, through the night. Often we lean and touch each other's lips as we go, or very old and near and dear to death. Are you sure you know me when you look upon me? Behold a mystery. These eyes, these lips, this hair, these loins, see you me in them? You shall see me where they are not. Long looking, the face of the world shall change, surely by the edge of the little wood I will come and sit with you. All riches promised and far more I give to you. Have you used the summer well? Then the winter shall be beautiful to you. Have you made good use of life? Then death shall be exceeding glorious. All this day we will go together. The sun shall circle overhead. Our shadows swing round us on the road. The winter sunshine shall float wonderful promises to us from the hills. The evening see us in another land. The night ever insatiate of love we will sleep together and rise early and go forward again in the morning. Wherever the road shall lead us, in solitary places or among the crowd, it shall be well. We shall not desire to come to the end of the journey, nor consider what the end may be. The end of all things shall be with us. 60. This is my trade. Teach me yours, and I will teach you mine. Are you a carpenter, a mason, a grower of herbs and flowers, a breaker of horses, a wheelwright, boat builder, engine tenter, dockyard laborer? Do you take in washing or sewing? Do you rock the youngest in the cradle with your foot while you knit stockings for the elder ones? It is well. Weaning yourself from external results, learn the true purpose of things. Wherever the sea and the land are is my trade, and it has been known since the eldest time. The ancient mysteries and oracles hinted at it. The venerable sages of India knew it, and men and women who walked this earth before all history. In the remotest stars it is exactly the same as here, and in all the circles of intelligences, whether they dwell in fire or water, or in the midst of what is solid, or in the thinnest vacuum. Many an old woman sitting by her cottage door is far more profoundly versed in it than I am. Many a fisherman pouncing on crabs along the shores of the Mediterranean has in it long ago served his apprenticeship. If you think or desire, by coming with me, to know more or be better than these, you mistake me and what I have to tell you. Learning and superiority are of no use in the face of all this. They depart much as they came. But to come near to understanding the use of materials is divine, and he that has never despised a weaker or more ignorant than himself is nearest to this. Many are the roads, but there is one end to which they all lead. There are many profitable trades, but there is one whose profits are past all reckoning. End of section 10. Section 11 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 61. Hand in hand for an hour I sit with you in the great garden of time. Equals we, possessors and enjoyers, ask no more than simply to be. This hour, equal of all others that were or shall be, itself perfect, the other hours as they come or go perfect. Meeting once, to meet often and often again, is not the whole garden ours? We shall not forget, we shall not hasten or delay. From this day it is not so much we that change, as the hours that glide past us, each bends low as it passes, with a gift. Earth kings on their thrones faintly foreshadowed this. The old myths and legends of heaven were the indistinct dreams of the everlasting peace of the soul. 62. And you too, ye hours of suffering and warfare, grim unrest, we confront, each perfect, we contain you. Storms and darkness surging around, we have seen round you. Hours of pain and darkness within, evil conscience and heavy burdens of concealment. Hours of black and obstinate desire, eyes turning aswerve, trembling guilty tongue, hungry mortal hours. Caught in the cleave of your jaws, I deny you not. Far from it, I welcome you. You are my friends, as good as any. I give you equal places with the rest, if not better. For what indeed should I understand if you had not taught me? Each beautiful, countless myriads to be known. Over the hills and green plains of eternity pasturing, for ever widening, mortal, immortal, swift-footed, slow-footed, O ye hours and desires, you are all mine. My herd, my beauties, my glossy, supple with arched necks, my gentle and caressing, my wild, fierce, passionate, divine, satanic, there is room and plenty for you all. O beautiful creatures, not because sometimes you show your teeth at each other will I disown you. Not if you should all turn upon one to rend him, will I cast that one out. Never so black or ungainly be he. Avaunt, over the hills with lightning speed fly, tossing your nostrils, but know that I easily outspeed you all. You cannot delude or escape me. Wild herd, begetting and begetting innumerable progeny, all mine. See if to my chariot at length harnessed I will not drive you, irresistible and triumphant, through all the kingdoms of space. 63. Beautiful is the winter by the sea. The gray waves come rolling with locks tossed back by the north wind. In his hut on the beach the fisherman cooks his dinner. The clock that belongs to the herring boat ticks against the wall. The drift nets are mended, the boat is overhauled and repaired, the boat lanterns and the pump are painted. Out on the great deep the balance and plunge goes on, the sail steadies in the wind, The land and well-known points fade, the circle of water completes itself. Beautiful is the winter inland, the wind and wild clouds with rain rush over the world, the valleys are full of the sound of streams. The farmer cleans out his ditches and drains, and mends the footpaths across his fields. The turnip pit is completed, and the apples and potatoes are picked over in the storeroom. The snow descends upon the young blade of corn. The soft-fingered flakes wrap all the world in white. Frost seals the earth in silence. He stands by the door of the house-place at night. The moon leans out, and the stars and the great planets from heaven. Orion hunts with his dogs. In the morning the fieldfares and starlings go by in flights. Do I ask of you perfections? Do you think that winter is perhaps less perfect than summer, or that there is not perfection everywhere where the soul casts its light? Be not careful about perfections. I declare to you the day shall come when everything shall be perfect to you. To be ungainly or deformed shall, after all, be no hindrance. Your ignorance and rags shall not avail for a disguise. Past your own futility and vanity you shall walk unfettered, and just gaze upon them as you go by. If learning and skill admit you to wonders, ignorance and awkwardness shall give you entrances equally or more desirable. Take care, I have warned you before, how you touch these words. With curious intellect come not near, lest I utterly destroy you. But come with bold heart and true and careless, and they shall bless you beyond imagination. I do not turn you back from self-seeking. On the contrary, I know that you shall never rest till you have found yourself. If you seek it in money, fame, and the idle gratification of inordinate organs and bumps, that is all very well for a time, but you will have to do better than that. If you seek it in duty, goodness, renunciation, they also are very well for a time, but you will do better. 64. Beautiful is the figure of the lusty, full-grown groom on his superb horse. The skin of the animal is saturated with love. Radiant health, O kisses of sun and wind, tall fir trees and moss-covered rocks, O boundless joy of nature on the mountain tops, coming back at last to you. Wild songs in sight of the sea, wild dances along the sands, glances of the risen moon, echoes of old, old refrains coming down from unimagined times. O rolling through the air superb prophetic spirit of man, pulse of divine health equalizing the universe, vast over all the world expanding spirit. O joy of the liberated soul, finished purpose and acquittal of civilization, daring all things. Light step, life held in the palm of the hand, O swift and eager delight of battle, fierce passion of love destroying and destroying the body. Eternal and glorious war, liberation, the soul like an eagle from gaping wounds and death, rushing forth screaming into its vast and eternal heaven. See, the Divine Mother goes forth with her babe, all creation circles round, God dwells once more in a woman's womb, friend goes with friend, flesh cleaves to flesh, the path that rounds the universe. Oh, every day sweet and delicious food, kisses to the lips of sweet-smelling fruit and bread, milk and green herbs, strong well-knit muscles, quick healing glossy skin, body for kisses all over, radiant health, to breath, oh joy, to sleep, ah, never enough to be expressed. for the taste of fruit ripening warm in the sun, for the distant sight of the deep, liquid sea, for the sight of the naked bodies of the bathers bathing by the hot sea banks, the pleasant consciousness of those who are unashamed, the glance of their eyes, the beautiful proud step of the human animal on the sand, for the touch of the air on my face or creeping over my unclothed body, for the rustling sound of it in the trees, and the appearance of their tall stems springing so lightly from the earth. Joy, joy and thanks forever. 65. For the face of the farm lad who came and sat beside me, the handfuls of peas that he offered me, for the taste of their juicy, sweet pods, the pressure of the earth against me as I lay on it, the light sense riding on it of tremendous forces charioting me onward, for the like sense in my will and actions of being borne along. Oh, the splendid wind careening over earth and ocean, the sun darting between the great white clouds. Oh, the lifting of arms to nature, heaven wrapped around one's body. The unflagging pleasure of food, the crisp and toothsome growths of the soil, draughts of running water in summer. The evenings by the fire in winter, the ease after labor, the steady sleepy heat, the sleepy flicker on the wall, the presence of others in the room, for the voices of children, for the beautiful faces, and ever more beautiful appearing, of those I meet in the doorway or at meals, the mortal father, mother, sister, brother faces, for the glorified face of him I love, the long days out alone together in the woods, the nights superb of comradeship and love. O joy returning morn, noon and night, day long as in a dream walking over earth enchanted, waking deep midnight out of sleep in the ocean of joy. Lo, the beautiful surface, the rippling of waves, the moon shining down. Deep, deep draughts of all that life can give, drawn in to feed the flame. Joy, joy and thanks forever. O burning behind all worlds, immortal essences, flames of this ever-consuming universe never consumed, to laugh and laugh with you, and of our laughter shake forth creation. Wonderful, wave after wave, clouds, rain, wind, day and night, the sea by night in storms, and the morning over the hills, for grief and joy, for solitude and companionship, for the birth of babes and the putting away of the husks of the feeble and aged in the ground, for the great processions of the seasons over the earth, and the dead lying below, and the dead rising again in the pure translucent air to begin a new existence, with unutterable joy bursting outwards from them beyond all mortal bounds, with shouts and paeans into the blue ether of God. Joy, joy and thanks forever. And for the strange individual decree of each one, the daily hunger and thirst after sympathy ever new, for the pleasant putting forth of affection, and for the excess, for prostrate unspeakable love, for the pleasant moods of the soul, for the finite masterly enjoyment of the world, and for the painful moods, for the vicious agony and the vast dark after death of desire, for the transcendent pouring and pouring of the soul out into other worlds, for the tragic moments of life, and for the long same stretches of the commonplace, for the wonderful looming rise upon one of the great arch of death as one approaches it, for the dim perception of the infinite stretches beyond, for the final deep abiding sense of rest in Thee, for the touch of Thyself growing continually out of everything more actual, star-like, perfect, and for all experience, joy, joy and thanks forever. End of section 11. Section 12 of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 66. Oh, the sound of trumpets, the wild clangor of wings, forging aloft into the air. Oh, freedom for men. Sounds of innumerable voices singing, starry lamps twinkling to each other across the huge concave of time. Dread creators of the flying earth through space, travelers yourself upon it, flyers through all forms, endurers of all disguises. In your hut by the seashore, looking back upon the myriad constellations whence you descended, in the eyes of her you love, in the faithful face of your enemy in battle, aware at last of the drift of creation. Oh, joy, joy, inextinguishable joy and laughter. Lo, the conscience, the tender green shoot in each one growing, arising, Yggdrasil casting its leaves, elements and nations over the universe. Lo, the moral laws, so long swathing the soul, losing, parting at last for the liberation of that which they prepared. Lo, death in majesty appearing tender and beautiful, walking on earth the floor of heaven through the night, through the long transparent night, singing, singing. In her arms the children of all creation, all creatures of the field, and the children of men, nursing. In their ears singing low, singing soft the song, the interpreting song, that the darting sun sings, and the maiden by her window, the song of the leaping waters and of love, and of joy, of inconceivable joy, O ecstasy, thrilling every object of thought. 67. I hear the electric thunderbolt strike the earth. It shivers and it staggers in its orbit. Leap, children of men, arise, set your faces dead as flint, for great is the prize before you. The hour has struck, the masters appear. Back, O elements and destiny. From this hour, war, ever more splendid and glorious war, the long tradition of the earth, the flame of the soul burning through all materials. Long the battle, clouds of dust hiding heaven, earth trembles like a startled horse. They that fight descend radiant with eternal lightnings. The gods blaze forth upon each other. The flags fly of all nations up and down. The long result of history, and penetrating and preceding all history, completes itself. Lo, freedom, haughty, magnificent, moving like a dream before the half-awakened eyes of men, never faithless to her, never at last one faithless. 68. And so I heard a voice say, What is freedom? I have heard it said, the lions roaring in their dens. I have seen the polyp stretching its arms upward from the floor of the deep. I have heard the cries of slaves and the rattling of their chains, and the hoarse shout of victims rising against their oppressors. I have seen the deliverers dying calmly on the scaffold. I have heard of the centuries-long struggle of nations for constitutional liberty. The step-by-step slowly one approaches as to some inner and impregnable fastness. I know the wars that have been waged, the flags flying to and fro over the earth. I know that one tyranny has been substituted for another, and that the forms of oppression have changed. But what is freedom? Villains and thralls become peacemen and daytell men, and the bondsmen of the land become the bondsmen of machinery and capital. The escaped convicts of labor fit admiringly the bracelets of wealth round their own wrists. I have seen the slaves of opinion and fashion, of ignorance and of learning, of drink and lust, of chastity and unchastity. One skin cast leaves another behind, and that another, and that yet another. I have seen over the world the daily fear of death and hell, of pain and momentary overhanging chance. I have seen recluses craning their lives up into impossible heavens, thinkers hopelessly meditating after philosophic truth, incurables lying covered with bed sores, household drudges running from the hearth to the slopstone, and from the slopstone to the hearth, all their lives. Something of all these slaveries I know. They are very well in their way. But what is freedom? And I heard in the height another voice say, I am. In the recluse, the thinker, the incurable and the drudge, I am. I am the giver of life. I am happiness. I am in the good and evil, in the fortunate and the unfortunate, in the gifted and the incapable alike. I am not one more than the other. The lion roaring in its den, and the polyp on the floor of the deep, the great deep itself, know me. The long advances of history, the lives of men and women, the men that scratched the reindeer and mammoth on bits of bone, the bushmen painting their rude rock paintings, the mud hovels clustering round the medieval castles, the wise and kindly Arab with his loving boy attendants, the Swiss mountain herdsman, the Russian patriot, the English mechanic, know me. I am happiness in them, in all underlying. I am the master, showing myself from time to time as occasion serves. I am not nearer to one than the other. They do not seek me so much as I advance through them. Out of all would you emerge? Would you at last, O child of mine, after many toils and endless warfare, for without such all is in vain, emerge and become my equal? Wonderful, wonderful is this that I tell you. Would you too become a master, when you have seen and known all slaveries and have ceased to put one before the other? Would you, whom I have often silently been with, to whom in the early morning I have come kissing you on the lips to leave happiness for your waking, whom I have taught long and long my own ways, even for this become my equal? Would you look me at last in the face? It shall be then. The way is long, but the centuries are long. Faint not. Does my voice sound distant? Faint not. Even now for a moment round your neck advancing, I stretch my arms. To my lips I draw you. I press upon your lips the seal of a covenant that cannot be forgotten. 69. I who write translate for you these thoughts. I wipe a mirror and place it in your hands. Look long, O friend, look long, satiate yourself. I bring you to your own to take or leave for a while as pleases you best. I have perfect faith in you, and can wait. The whole of time is before me. 70. The little red stars appear once more, shining among the hazel catkins. The pewit tumbles and cries as at the first day. the year begins again. The wind blows east, the wind blows west, the old circle of days and nights completes itself. But henceforth the least thing shall speak to you words of deliverance, the commonest shall please you best, and the fall of a leaf through the air, and the greeting of one that passes on the road, shall be more to you than the wisdom of all the books ever written, and of this book. End of section 12. End of Towards Democracy by Edward Carpenter. Read by Sue Anderson.